the full-time mage. The extreme lightning. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451, Undead Evacuation. The long-lost sunlight penetrated the slowly dispersing dead clouds and fell on the ground. As soon as the remains of the undead came into contact with the sunlight, they immediately turned into ashes. When the sunlight was fully shining, the ashes of the undead, shining with some burning brilliance, kept flying, looking like a fire ash ceremony performed on the land of Beyond, creating a spectacular and beautiful scene. These ashes will eventually fall back to the earth and become nourishing seeds, but because of Tang Mao's magical power that destroys everything, this process may take a long time. Of course, if there are plant mages and earth mages to assist, Fangbo Plane still has a chance to restore to its original appearance. When Tang Mao came back, after collecting a large number of spirits, he found that only Emofan, who was seriously injured and ready to lie down at any time, was left here. Boss, you are really perverted. Looking at the returning Tang Mao, Emofan muttered. Not bad, you are not bad. If someone else were on this battlefield, I'm afraid they would have become nutrients for the earth long ago. Tang Mao shed his demon form and said in a light voice, ahem. I can't help it. For some reason, one cigarette was taken from the defenders here. If they don't go up, I don't know how many people will die under the attack of the undead. I can't just stand by and watch. Emofan sat on the ground and took out a pack of cigarettes from nowhere and handed one to Tang Mao. He didn't refuse, although he didn't have a smoking addiction now. However, he would still smoke one of these cigarettes sometimes. Especially after finishing some of the things he loved to do, he had to have one as a routine. After finishing one cigarette, Emofan said, by the way, boss, in addition to asking me to open the door to the underworld for them, the ancient king also had one thing that the queen of the Netherworld asked me to tell you. What is it? Tang Mao was also lying on the ground with wounds all over his body at this time, and he didn't want to move at all. The reason why the ancient king didn't kill Khufu was not because he wanted to let the tiger go back to the mountains, but because this is a land. After Emofan explained it, he was a little puzzled and said, boss, what does killing the Egyptian pharaoh have to do with being there? Emofan didn't understand, but he understood why the ancient king didn't kill Khufu. He raised his hand weakly, pointing to the disappearing mountains in the distance and said, do you see the affected mountains over there? Emofan nodded, and Tang Mao continued, if the battle continues, Khufu will die, but there will be no grass within 100 miles. The battle between emperors is more terrifying than you can imagine. If Khufu is forced into a corner, no one can predict what he will do. Emofan thought of the mountains and the army of undead that disappeared so casually before. He couldn't help but want to take a breath. This battle between emperors, before this, was something that he dared not even think about. After a while, Zhao Manan and Ling Ling rushed over. When they saw Tang Mao and Emofan lying there, they lifted them up. It was at this time that they realized that the main reason for the army's withdrawal was the problem on the coastline. Emofan went to the Parthenon to recuperate with his injuries, and as for the Cardinal Lengju, he was handed over to the Holy Court of Inquisition, a top international force. Tang Mao did not go to the Parthenon. Although he was also covered in wounds, they were only superficial injuries. Moreover, his own magic power recovered very quickly. It would be enough for him to return to his peak state after recuperating in Yuxu Town for a period of time. 1 month later, in Yuxu Town, Lengju has been arrested. How long are you going to detain me? Ling King looked at Tang Mao with some dissatisfaction. Hey, senior sister, you have to understand that I'll let you stay here for your safety. Why do you say that I'm imprisoning you? Tang Mao leaned on the recliner and looked at Ling King, who was serving tea and water next to him. You bastard. You just want to order me around for nothing. Ling King gritted his teeth and said, senior sister, didn't you volunteer? Besides, I didn't ask you to work like a cow or a horse. I just asked you to serve me until I recovered. It's been less than a month, and you're not happy. After returning to Yuxu Town, Tang Mao needed someone to take care of him because of his serious injuries. Originally, Muningsu was responsible, but who knew that this senior sister would come to the door on her own initiative. But the senior sister was still so charming when she was gentle and finally formed the current situation. He had obviously recovered, but whenever Lenking wanted to leave, he looked like he was dying and seriously injured. You dead bastard, don't think I don't know what you and Ningsu did a few days ago. You have the energy to hum, and you haven't recovered yet. Lenking said shyly. Senior sister, why do you still have the habit of eavesdropping? Tang Mao curled his lips, and without waiting for Lenking to explain, he said, if you are interested, can we discuss it together? Get lost. Lenking finally understood why his sister was so annoyed with this dog man sometimes. In terms of shamelessness, he is simply unmatched. I still have my own work to deal with. If you are better, let me go back. Tang Mao smiled slightly and said, I was better at first, but don't you know that I was hurt by Muningsu again that day? Yu Lenking was speechless for a while. This is something a person can say? Question mark? Alas, senior sister, you may not know that, although this kind of thing is happy, it is also painful. Tang Mao said helplessly, as if he really paid a great price. Then why didn't you feel pain when you bullied that little moth girl last night? Lenking couldn't bear it anymore. Senior sister, your quirk is not good, you have to change it. Tang Mao really didn't expect that Lenking knew about this? Question mark? But something is wrong. I didn't notice anyone approaching. Maybe it's because we are in Yuxu town, or maybe he is too focused on Yushish's white part. Well, I have to pay attention next time. Why don't you die? The reason why Lenking didn't say this at the beginning was that he knew that Tang Mao was a dog with no ivory in his mouth. And just now he was just angry and spoke quickly. Sure enough, this dog day can find a loophole and take advantage of it. How can I die? Didn't you see that the speaker called me personally a few days ago to express his condolences? How come you are now a great contributor to the country? If you encounter any trouble in the future, just because you take care of me so wholeheartedly, I have to stay alive to be your safe haven. As he spoke, he held Lenking's slender little hand with one hand and pushed the elastic place with the other hand. However, before he could pull it over, he felt a pain in his hand. Facing Tang Mao, this lecher, she couldn't give in at all. It was absolutely common for him to take advantage of him. After patting his paw, Lenking glared at him and said, do you think I'm an ignorant girl? Alas, senior sister, if you keep being so reserved, you are destined to be an older leftover woman in the future. He was not angry, but persuaded her earnestly. Obviously, this kind of thing is not the first or second time. I will be single all my life, what's it to you? Lenking responded dissatisfiedly. I think it's a waste of time for you to spend your best youth like this. Why don't you let me take you to experience the joy of being an adult? No one wants me, so get out of here. You are the one who has no one, and you are wasting your time. There are so many men chasing me. Lenking suddenly realized that something was wrong and cursed in dissatisfaction. Well, if you really can't get married in the future, I will support you. Don't be angry. Although the Munugio sisters have no hope, the Leng sisters are also sisters. Lenking has regained his composure and chose to ignore his verbal bombardment. Moreover, he looked at Tang Mao with contempt and said, forget it, your little tricks. I'm afraid you can't even fool my sister, and you still want to fool me? This is really a fact, and these two sisters are really close. Even the way they despise themselves is exactly the same. The one in front of him is Lenking. If it were Lingling, it would be necessary to pick her up and bully her severely. Sure enough, what you can't get is the most attractive. After a moment's silence, Lenking said seriously, stop playing me. I'm leaving tomorrow. There are still many things waiting for me to deal with in the Magic City. Actually, I'm going to the Magic City tomorrow as well. Hey, Lenking, what are you doing? Calm down, calm down. I'm your savior. Chapter 452 Tang Mao's Influence. An hour later, Tang Mao, with a bruised face and Lenking, who looked relieved, boarded the train to the Magic City. Big sister, just because of your violent temper, I'm sure you'll be alone in this life. Seeing Tang Mao's various complaints along the way, she didn't seem to be angry at all. Instead, she was smiling all the time. To be honest, Lenking looked so rude, no matter how you looked at her. However, after all, she had been ordering him around for a month, so Tang Mao accepted the beating. Anyway, she just felt the turbulent waves, not to mention, it was almost the same level as the first wife. Lenking didn't care about this. After all, she felt very comfortable beating him just now. What are you going to the Magic City for? Lenking asked after a moment. Yuxu Town is in need of expansion right now, so I'm going to the Magic City to find a few aristocratic families and talk about some business. Tang Mao said nonsense. Bullshit. Lenking directly exposed his lie. You know, she has been in Yuxu Town for so long, and she has hardly seen Tang Mao, the damned one, care about business. Every day, he is either staring at this or that, and he has almost nothing else to say, except commenting on breasts and buttocks. This kind of person is completely a shopkeeper who shirks responsibility. He cares about his own family? You must be kidding. It is only Muningsu. If someone else works so hard and still covets such a man, he will probably have to set up his own family, right? Even if he doesn't set up his own family, he will be kicked out. In Lenking's view, Muningsu and Tang Mao are just like tender cabbage being eaten by wild boars. Senior sister, can you be more polite? Tang Mao looked at Lenking helplessly and said, you really won't be able to get married like this. Although I don't need you to eat. If you are not gentle, I think it is necessary to consider whether to take you in. Get lost. She was speechless about Tang Mao's 3 sentences that were inseparable from this aspect. Then, Lenking was silent. Talking to Tang Mao, no one has a good temper. It's really unbearable. She really didn't realize it before. It was her bad luck that this guy was so talkative. Why did she get saved by him? Not only did she lose her innocence, but she was also taken advantage of every day. The most important thing was that this scumbag obviously had impure motives. Of course, although Lenking was full of disgust, she was not really repulsive. To put it bluntly, without this shameless guy, she would have died now. People may be contradictory creatures, especially women. She was anxious to leave, but she actually wanted to be alone. After all, she obviously felt that Tang Mao, this bastard, was treating her less and less as an outsider recently. She was really afraid that she would confess if she couldn't help it. Lenking's thoughts, of course, he didn't know. But after more than a month of getting along, he did feel like he was in love again. Sure enough, he was an emotional man, but this road full of love is not easy to walk. After arriving in the Magic City, the two separated. Lenking returned to the Kingshan hunting house, and he returned to his apartment. This time he came back, mainly because Munigyo invited him to go to the Mu family. After returning to the apartment, his lovely wife was already sitting at home. Tang Mao walked over and gave Munigyo a hug without saying a word. Although Munigyo wanted to refuse the enthusiastic Tang Mao, this guy seemed to be full of blood and couldn't refuse. In the end, the two of them talked unscrupulously on this small sofa. Each of them talked about the recent situation. After learning about Tang Mao's injury, Munigyo took the initiative to sit on it. Such a considerate woman is really rare. The reason why Munigyo invited Tang Mao to the Mu family was actually because her sister seemed to be engaged. And because of this, she was also urged. There was no way he had to take Tang Mao back so that she could get some personal freedom. In fact, Munigyo was also very curious. When did Tang Mao start to be used like this? She also learned by chance that in the Mu family, Tang Mao had been listed as one of the people who should not be provoked. When she told her father that she already had a boyfriend who was Tang Mao, their expressions were extremely wonderful. They even told Munigyo that, if this was true, the family would allow her the greatest freedom. After a long chat, Munigyo pushed away Tang Mao's restless hand and said, "Don't make trouble. If you do this again, I will be angry." After seeing that he didn't move, Munigyo took a breath. Not to mention that she was a little tired, but she still asked, "Do you know my dad?" "No." Tang Mao paused and shook his head. "Then do you know the elders of our Mu family?" Munigyo said again. I only know you, then why did you and your Yuxu town become the most untouchable people in our new family? When I went home not long ago, almost everyone in the family has been notified. Mu Nigio was even more puzzled. I think it should be related to the trip to the East China Sea Magic Association. Tang Mao understood immediately after hearing what Mu Nigio said. The Mu family didn't want to offend him because they knew that he was a man who could command totems, right? Seeing Mu Nigio's expression of "you hurry up and tell me," Tang Mao told her in detail. After listening to what he said, Mu Nigio finally understood the whole story. Immediately praised. "I didn't expect that you, a dead scum, are also useful." "That's right. When was I useless?" Tang Mao retorted very dissatisfiedly. "How when was I useless? Don't you know?" Mu Nigio glanced down and said with a little sarcasm. Looking at where her eyes went, Tang Mao felt as if he had been hit by 10,000 critical hits. Exclamation mark. "Too much. If I don't let you feel my dragon power today, you are afraid that you don't know how high the sky is and how thick the earth is." Tang Mao, who was stimulated, turned over and made the decision. Mu Nigio saw that Tang Mao wanted to show herself, so she said, "Umbrella." Unfortunately, before she finished speaking, her lips were sealed. Every time Mu Nigio reminded him of this, he was very puzzled. How can his control ability be wrong? Why doesn't this woman trust him so much? The next morning, Mu Nigio, with a proud look on her face, led Tang Mao to the Mu family. "Hey, don't be so depressed. I don't dislike you." Mu Nigio's comfort always sounded so harsh. Tang Mao said unhappily, "I just haven't recovered from my old injury. When I recover, I will make you understand that my dragon power cannot be challenged. You only have those 3 tricks, and there is only one War 5 behind. Okay, you are strong, okay." Seeing Tang Mao turn around and look like he was about to leave, Mu Nigio said with a smile, "It is necessary to state again that I'm really strong. As a man, how can you allow others to say that you are not good enough? Moreover, your performance is already very strong. It's just that the women who deal with it are all magicians. Their bodies are not generally strong, so they are slightly weak. If it were an ordinary woman, how could they resist Tang Mao's output?" When the two came to the Mu family, they happened to meet Dong Fanglai, who came here to propose marriage. Although this kid usually looks arrogant, when facing Tang Mao, he looks like a junior. There is no way the one who is so strong that no one can compare his dad. What's more, it's not just the Mu family that got the news that they should not be enemies with Yuxu Town, that is, the Tang family, but also the Dongfang family. After all, the East China Sea Magic Association is deeply rooted in the hearts of the people. Even these old-fashioned families are all well behaved when facing them. But what about Tang Mao? He directly gave the elders a crippled one, and in the end nothing happened, and he directly got half of the profit of mine. The most important thing is that the Dali family lost a lot of resources because of this. Today's Dali family is not having an easy time. After all, without a fixed income from resources, the Mu family gave up on them directly. "Brother Tang, are you and Sister Gyro coming to play?" Dong Fanglai also took the initiative to come over and ask. "I'm the same as you, but I'm here for my sister." Since others took the initiative to show their goodwill, he naturally didn't need to pretend to be a calf. Mu Nigio curled her lips when she heard this. There is no comparison at all. Dong Fanglai came to propose marriage and wanted to marry her cousin. But Tang Mao could give herself a wedding? Question mark? "Then I congratulate you first." After Dong Fanglai congratulated, he looked at Mu Nigio and said, "Gyro sister, where is your cousin?" "Cousin?" Tang Mao paused and looked at Dong Fanglai with some confusion. Hearing this, Dong Fanglai responded, "Mu Nuxin, she is also my fiancé." "What?" Mu Nigio looked at Tang Mao and said dissatisfiedly, "Why are you reacting so strongly? No, that Mu Nuxin is your cousin, not your biological sister?" Tang Mao asked in a daze. "Who told you that she is my biological sister?" Mu Nigio shrugged. Chapter 453, Dang Mei is not a biological sister. After that, Tang Mao finally realized that he had misunderstood all along. However, he did not react too much. After all, no matter whether it was true or not, He did not dare to provoke Munugio because of her harsh words that day. "You useless thing, you are like this just for a woman." Just as the three of them walked into the Mew family, a curse came from behind the flower bed. "Brother Mewhua, I came to your Mew family for Munugsin. You and the old man promised me the same thing. I have been working like a slave for you all these years, but in the end, just because Danfang Lai is a substitute for the national government player, you betrothed Munugsin to him? What do you think of me?" Then, it seemed that a young man said angrily. Tang Mao glanced at that place and asked in confusion, "What's going on?" Munugio sighed slightly and said, "This person is called Kishan. He was once a talented scholar in the imperial capital. He was a strong man of the same level as Muningsu. He was nominated by the government, but he was not successfully selected in the end. He came from a grassroots school almost like you. He stepped into the imperial capital step by step with his own strength and entered the Mew family. His wisdom and courage are quite extraordinary." Tang Mao looked at Danfang Lai and then said, "You don't seem to have any reaction. I'm already the winner. Why should I have any reaction?" Danfang Lai smiled and said indifferently, "Now he is about to get engaged. Munugsin already belongs to him. What's there to care about those former suitors of her?" Tang Mao disagreed. After all, if I remember correctly, Munugsin did not end up with Danfang Lai. However, she is just Munugio's cousin, and Tang Mao really has no interest in her affairs. The young man seemed to have heard something, and then he refuted, and finally he stumbled to find Munugsin to ask for clarification. At this time, the man called Mewhua also came over. He was a little unhappy after seeing Munugio bringing Tang Mao. When he came over and was about to scold, he was suddenly stunned and said, He is Tang Mao?" Munugio nodded and then responded, "Yes, didn't I say that he is my boyfriend's? Hello, I'm Munugio's brother. Welcome to your arrival. Please go to the main hall." Mewhua was completely different from the way he just scolded the young man. Then he took Tang Mao, Munugio and Danfang Lai into the hall. Under Munugio's introduction, the heads of the Danfang family and the Mew family stood up to show their goodwill. Although the Tang family is now just a small sect. However, with 2 monarch-level demons sitting in charge, plus the loss of the coastline, the need to increase construction in Phenio City, etc., Tang Mao is someone they need to curry favor with. He also gave Munugio enough face and was very polite to the old man of the Mew family. Tang Mao? Just when he was bragging with the old master of the Mew family, he suddenly heard a familiar voice calling him. Then, he looked back, but he didn't expect that the person calling him was Danfang Hui. "Why are you here?" Because she had reached the current level by herself. Danfang Hui, who had just been called back to the family, was also brought here. However, she didn't expect to meet this national celebrity here. "I'm a guest, but why are you here?" Tang Mao remembered that this woman didn't have a good relationship with her family. "Oh, I was just called back by the family not long ago. My cousin came for a blind date today, so I followed him to see it." Danfang Hui said, "I haven't seen you for a few years, and you're getting more and more charming." Tang Mao looked at Danfang Hui, and he had to say that this girl was getting more and more attractive. She was simply a delicate and charming woman. "Why are you still so shameless?" Danfang Hui said with some disgust. Hearing her words, an elder from the Danfang family scolded, "Hua, don't be so presumptuous." "Well, old man, we are old acquaintances. There is no need to do this," Tang Mao said hurriedly without waiting for Danfang Hui to speak. The elder was relieved. To be honest, Danfang Hui is also a leader among the young people of this generation. The most important thing is that she has hardly used the family's resources. Moreover, the most important thing is that she dares to speak so casually here because she was invited back by the head of the Danfang family. Danfang Hui is not a fool. After looking at the elder who scolded her and seeing everyone treat Tang Mao with courtesy, she understood. This lecturer is no longer the mountain and wild man he used to be. She still knows something about Tang Mao's deeds. Although he has never paid attention to her. Munugio came over at this time, put her arm around Tang Mao and said, "Why don't you introduce her to me?" Seeing his concubine claiming her sovereignty, Tang Mao rarely felt that Munugio loved him. It's not that he was not confident, but this woman had always behaved in a non-competitive manner. He really doubted whether he was not cared about at all. But now, because of Danfang Hui, Mu Nijio came to claim her sovereignty. Tang Mao smiled and introduced her. Oh, her name is Danfang Hui, my high school classmate. Is this your girlfriend? Danfang Hui looked at Mu Nijio and asked in a calm voice. Yes. Isn't your girlfriend the woman named Mu Ningsu? Danfang Hui said again. Fuck you. Tang Mao was immediately in a bad mood. How could this damn woman cause trouble for him as soon as they met? Question mark? Similarly, Mu Nijio's face was not very good. After all, this is the Mu family. Moreover, Tang Mao came here as his boyfriend. We are just friends. Jiao Jiao is my girlfriend. Tang Mao did not wait for Mu Nijio to get angry and hurriedly explained. Cousin, I have something to ask you. Come with me. Dan Fanglai also hurried over. After saying a few words, he hurriedly took his cousin away. After Tang Mao breathed a sigh of relief, he looked at Mu Nijio and whispered, Jiao Jiao, I promise that we are really just classmates. There is no other relationship. Besides, this stupid woman has a hole in her brain. The head of the Danfang family was actually very interested in the communication between Tang Mao and Danfang Hui. Even if possible, he didn't mind Danfang Hui becoming his girlfriend. The head of the Mu family actually knew about Tang Mao and Mu Ningsu. But is it important? Children of aristocratic families always have to make sacrifices for something. Although the Tang family is a clan now, everyone knows that the Tang family will definitely be a new clan in China in the future. And because of this, there is nothing wrong with them paying for some women. As long as they can be related, it is a good thing. The heads of the two families each had their own thoughts, and Tang Mao kept coaxing Mu Nijio to be happy. He knew his current position, but he also knew that, if he really hurt his beloved concubine, he would regret it for the rest of his life. Since he couldn't do anything here, Tang Mao took Mu Nijio away, and found a room to apologize sincerely. Others didn't say anything about his departure. Everything was going on, but everyone's thoughts were different. Chapter 454 Cooperation. Talking about life with Mu Nijio in detail at the Mu family, let alone, there is a different taste. Moreover, Mu Nijio is also very easy to coax. The reason why she is angry is just because she has never been competitive, and it is rare for her to bring Tang Mao to the family. Result. But, with Tang Mao's company for half a day, how can she still have the energy to be angry? Recovery is true, but it is not a second recovery. Afterwards, when Tang Mao and the others came out, everyone was as usual. Moreover, it seemed that the banquet was still waiting for them. Although everyone knew what the two had done, no one showed the slightest bit of unnaturalness. During the meal, the head of the Mu family also expressed his invitation to Tang Mao to mine the Kunlun mountains together. And this is actually the main reason for his coming here. Now that Xiao Yanji has reached the time to advance, he has long been interested in the soul fire in the Kunlun fire mountains. Now that the other party has mentioned it, and has also expressed the meaning of sharing, Tang Mao will naturally not refuse. Moreover, knowing their difficulties, Tang Mao also took on the task of detection alone. Although his strength is already superclass. However, because of his high mental strength, it was no problem to hide it. After the agreement, Tang Mao left. When he left the Mu family, Tang Mao met Danfang Hui who was here. The little girl did not feel guilty for causing trouble just now. Instead, she said with contempt, "You are still as shameless as before. We are familiar with each other, but if you keep talking nonsense like this, I will sue you for defamation." Tang Mao said this satisfiedly. Humph. Danfang Hui paused, and then said, "You are now in great glory. Even the elders of our Danfang family have to treat you with courtesy. Do you regret not kneeling and licking at the beginning? Why don't you die?" Although Danfang Hui did have some regrets, she was quite unhappy when she said that. It's not too late. After all, I don't mind raising a few wildflowers outside for viewing. Looking at the charming Danfang Hui, Tang Mao said half jokingly and half seriously. Danfang Hui smiled slightly, and then said in a low voice, "You are dreaming." Sure enough, although this woman has some interest in him, it is almost impossible for her to be his mistress. However, with his current reputation, strength and status, it is not that Danfang Hui will be lost. Since it is destined to be fruitless, he just says goodbye and leaves. Danfang Hui did not try to keep him. After all, she still couldn't do it. She couldn't do anything with Tang Mao. Especially knowing that he might not only have Muningsu as a woman, this is the biggest hurdle in her heart. After all, the reason why she left the Danfang family was because of her father. Although Danfang Hui looks very charming, her personality is that of a woman with feudal ideas. After Tang Mao left the Mu family, he returned to Yuxu town. Zhao Manan and Emo Fan naturally couldn't be left behind on this trip. Although Yuxu town is still just a clan, there are many more people under its command than before. In addition to Emo Fan and Zhao Manan, there is another young and talented magician named Xiao Yu. Not long ago, Zhu Zhaoting from Bo City and his girlfriend Zhang Lulu also joined. There is also Ko Kinkin who returned from studying with Dean Zhao, and Mu Bei from Mu Zoyan's branch have all joined Yuxu town. They may not be comparable to Tang Mao. However, among the many young people, they are definitely the best. Today's Yuxu town can be said to be full of talents. After Tang Mao came back and told Muningsu about this, Muningsu was a little helpless. She was not unhappy. She just didn't expect that after all her efforts, she couldn't match the contribution provided by Tang Mao, a hands-off manager. Almost everything he did was the most important to Yuxu town. After all, whether a world can operate normally depends on a large amount of funds. Although the resources of the previous mineral vein were not small, Yuxu town needed to build and invite magicians to be stationed, so the resources were just barely enough to survive. Of course, it was because they had too few people. Otherwise, if they mined enough, they could get more. But the problem was that they had no money. As for the expenses here, they were provided by the profits from the former mines in Peru. It must be said that the annoying general in Peru, for Tang Mao now, just wanted to hug him and kiss him. He is the biggest supporter of Yuxu town. And as long as this fire vein is successfully mined this time, then Yuxu town will get a new change. With a large area in the east in trouble, the future is even more promising. After telling Muningsu, Tang Mao led Emo Fan and Zhao Manan to open the way. After all, there is no news about the totem at the moment, and the two of them are also a disaster for the girls when they are idle. So for the safety of the girls, it is necessary to take these two guys with them. The road to the fire vein is long, over mountains and ridges, and the newly discovered fire vein is located far away from the city. The west is vast and sparsely populated, with high mountains and vast land, deep forests and secluded valleys. It is really not easy to find a rare fire vein in such a place. Fortunately, after a long period of exploration by the two great families, they have found a very safe road and established a post station dedicated to serving this fire vein in the Taiyang Ridge of Kunlun Mountain. The post station is called Wangyang Post Station. It was a relatively poor village for a long time in the past. With the injection of manpower from the two great families, it gradually showed the scale of a small town. The Mu family and the Danfang family also have some cooperation with the local government. The government naturally hopes that this remote village can be developed so that the roads, railways, and security boundaries will be expanded accordingly. In addition, the east coast is frequently harassed and attacked by sea monsters, and the inland in the west have received more and more attention. Taiyang Ridge has long been purchased by the Mu family. The local government, the Magic Association, and the military do not participate in the issue of sharing a piece of the pie. They mainly focus on the construction of this Wangyang post station, because only by setting up a mature security post station here can the local government expand their Shianayu city. Therefore, the military and the government are also willing to assist the Mu family and the Danfang family. However, the road here has not been built yet. But Danfang Mo, the representative of the Danfang family, said, as long as the fire vein can be opened, the Danfang family can take on the task of building the road. So, after all, it still needs to be mined. Otherwise, everything is out of the question. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 455, heading to the outer Kunlun. After a while, the car they were riding in drove into Wanggyang Post Station, which was considered to be the road to the foot of Taeyang Ridge. Taeyang Ridge was composed of more than 100 large and small mountains, and its altitude was much higher than all the surrounding mountains and mountain ranges. In midsummer, under the direct sunlight, the heat from the mountain shape made the temperature of the high ridges in the center of Taeyang Ridge extremely high, and it was difficult for ordinary people to approach. There was also a rumor that more than 300 years ago, a meteor slid and hit Taeyang Ridge, forming a giant fire cave, which was completely hidden between the mountains. The formation of the fire vein was not a matter of 1 or 2 years, and it required too many accidental factors of nature to be connected in series, which made various element veins precious and rare. Mu Guangqing's knowledge was indeed amazing. He found the fire vein in the Taeyang Ridge with extremely complex terrain through some local legends, and combined with historical records, and even marked the specific year of its formation. The fire veins of more than 300 years. Perhaps the level of this fire vein was not high for a long time in the past, until now it is full of foundation, coupled with the special scorching sun here, creating such a fire vein. The things that can be born from the fire veins are far more than spirit seeds and soul seeds. The most inconspicuous small stones in the fire veins are all tempered, and can be made into guiding stones, can be used as energy output, and can create a large number of fire mages. Especially when the sea level rises, mages become extremely precious and scarce, but mages are not just available. In order to allow more people to awaken, such elemental veins are really too important. Because the awakening stone for awakening magic, and such elemental veins, no matter what elemental attribute it is, contain a kind of awakening source power that has been drawn from nature and washed, and then specially shaped by the magic association. It can be used to awaken the magic stardust in the human body. Element are also called nature. It is precisely because the awakening stones issued by the magic association to schools are obtained from these elemental veins that most magicians awaken the first time. Because of the rarity of the two fire veins, fire and thunder, the fire and thunder awakened by magicians are relatively rare. Therefore, if this fire vein can really be mined, everyone knows how huge the profit will be. That is, the Mu family can't eat it by themselves, otherwise the Mu family will never share this fire vein with any family. Of course, the cake is too big to eat alone. It's time to share it. It's the best policy. Real businessmen understand that money should be made together. Making money together is multiplication. Going it alone is addition, and it will never be a climate. At night, everyone rested in a nearby town. The next morning, there were about 20 people in the group, and only 9 of them would be responsible for the fire vein. Tang Mao, Mo Fan, Zhao Manayan, Kishan, Mu Zuocheng, Dongfang Zifeng, Dongfang Linlin and others. Those who were responsible for controlling the fire vein were Dongfang Mo, Mu Guangqing, Dongfang Ming and others. The mountain road was still a long way off. Mu Guangqing, who first discovered the fire vein, summoned his mountain beast mount. The mountain beast led everyone over the dangerous peaks of Sunridge at the fastest speed, gradually approaching the fire vein area of Sunridge. Do you see that burning stone peak? That is the highest peak in Sunridge. The overlord of Sunridge lives on it. After our long observation, we found that burning stone peak is surrounded by a layer of orange volcanic ash mist all year round, which has hardly ever dissipated. This volcanic ash mist has become our most perfect cover. No matter what big noise we make in the fire vein, the overlord can't see it. Mu Guangqing pointed to a high peak in front and said. The high peak was buried in a large group of rolling clouds. The clouds were orange and sometimes glowed with some flames. It seemed that there was a kind of high altitude cyclone there, which constantly sucked in the volcanic ash, flame particles, and fire breath erupting from the fire vein. Over time, it turned into such a huge and spectacular volcanic cloud. These clouds are not ethereal, but give people a sense of heaviness. With the mountains here, it feels like the vast world is pressed into a horizontal rift, with a bit of closed depression. Isn't the overlord interested in the fire vein? Mo Fan asked with some doubt. According to my guess, it is more concerned about this volcanic cloud. I just heard from some local people that this overlord is not so quiet, so Brother Emo should pay more attention. Mu Guanqing looked at Dongfang Emo and said, although Tang Mao's strength is also very strong, in his opinion, he is only a high level mage after all. Facing the monarch level demon, only a super level mage can deal with it. Of course, in fact, except for Emo Fan and Zao Manayan, almost no one here knows that Tang Mao is actually a super level mage. Even Munagio didn't know about this. After all, the two of them had nothing to do except have sex when they met. This is one of the threats to us. Brother Emo and his subordinates will keep an eye on the overlord. If there is any situation, we will inform everyone. Then everyone, follow me to the fire cave. Mu Guanqing continued. After passing through several valleys, the terrain began to rise suddenly. The mountains tilted towards the sky and the volcanic clouds. It felt like walking up the mountain and going straight to the world above the clouds. Tang Mao didn't feel anything. After all, he already had 3 kinds of flames in his body, although 2 of them were from Yanji. But as long as they felt the same element burning, the 2 flames would automatically merge into the body. It was also because of this that, even though this place made them feel hot, Tang Mao was still fine. Speaking of which, in his previous life, he came to this world inadvertently in Kunlun Mountain. Although it was not in this peripheral area, if he had enough strength, he really wanted to go to the place he had set foot on before to see if he could find what Killin lost. But now, there is definitely no chance. After all, there is a demon empire in Kunlun. Although Kunlun is not among the top 3 of the world's largest forbidden areas. However, this does not mean that the demon empire here is not powerful. Moreover, this ranking is only given by humans. As for the true strength of the Kunlun demon, Tang Mao feels that it is definitely not as simple as humans imagine. After all, according to what Killin told him, this place seems to be the residence of totems. While Tang Mao was thinking, the terrain was getting higher and higher. Just when everyone really thought that the mountain road would go straight to the clouds, it suddenly crossed a vertical ridge and the view in front of them suddenly opened up. Tang Mao came back to his senses when he saw this. To put it bluntly, no matter how the Kunlun area is, it is not something I can set foot on now. So the things at the moment are more important. Chapter 456, Fire Vein Entrance. The destination this time was in the middle of the place. As they continued to move forward, they soon saw a sudden fall. The edge of the cave had already fallen into their field of vision. What was frightening was that the cave was so big that they could not see the whole view from here. They had to move closer. As they continued to move forward, the full view of the cave gradually emerged. The depth and seclusion brought a sense of fear, making it difficult for them to muster the courage to move forward. It really opened my eyes. Even the knowledgeable Zao Manan couldn't help but sigh. A real fire vein, just by its momentum, is enough to make ordinary people hesitate, but no one has really seen the fire in the cave. As they continued to approach, the dazzling red color touched their hearts. As they moved forward, the overbearing red color completely engulfed all their sights. Several people had already stopped and stood there, stunned by the awe-inspiring scene. Even Dongfang Emo, who was from the Dongfang family, who was famous for his fire, was stunned when he saw the scene. Then he said in shock, "This is incredible." Mu Guanqing laughed with a bit of pride on his face. He was the one who discovered this wonder, and today they will open the 300 years of elemental veins. Moreover, if they succeed, the 2 families and this new clan will also change. To be honest, seeing this scene, Emo Fan and Zao Manan both tacitly retreated. After all, this is so terrifying. Go down here? Can you still come up? Question mark? They didn't think so at all. However, Tang Mao only gave them a look, and the 2 of them lost their temper. After all, entering the sea of fire might not kill them, but if they retreated, they would probably be half crippled. In fact, it wasn't just Zao Manan who was scared, but the people from the Mu family and the Dongfang family were also a little scared. After all, who could have thought that this place would be so terrifying? Moreover, when we went up the mountain before, the air was a bit stuffy, but the temperature was normal. But when we reached Roulette Peak, near the volcanic lake, we were in a hell of fire. Gurgle, gurgle. The magma was rolling below, and from time to time we could see the flames rising to more than 20 meters high, interweaving in the air. Standing at the edge and looking down, this volcanic lake was simply a shocking sea of red magma, and the restless atmosphere made people feel terrified. The faces of several noble family children who came voluntarily changed at this moment. Obviously, they regretted their reckless decision. But now there is obviously no regret medicine. Even if they regret it, what can they do? At this time, the first discoverer King told people about the horror he found here. The few people who originally didn't want to step into the magma were now weak in their legs. Come and see. King walked forward and asked everyone to come over. He pointed to the place where Fan had seen different colored layers collided and said, when the two black molten magma balls collide, a violent reaction will occur. The power of this explosion is equivalent to a superclass fire magic. Then, within a certain period of time, the explosion area will appear as we see now. When Manan heard about superclass magic, he looked at Tangmyo with a sad face, as if to say, brother, I'm still young and there are many girls waiting to be rescued. However, Tangmyo ignored Manan's look. Manan and Fan had no chance to escape, but the two people from the family still had a chance. And they also said it out. King did not blame them for anything, but just sighed, and told them the way back. You guys, it's not too late to regret now. If you go down, it will be hopeless. King looked at the few people and asked again. After all, in his opinion, it was a matter of life and death. So, it was necessary to make it clear in advance. Tangmyo was indifferent to this. King was secretly surprised, and even thought with some admiration, that this might be the so-called the more skilled, the more courageous. Anything else you want to remind me? If not, get ready to go. Although it seems to be very dangerous here, if they retreat, because of the danger, will Tang's family still have a chance to develop? You know, if it is not dangerous, then what is there for them here? It has been taken away by those people from the aristocratic families. Moreover, they only need to go down and make space marking points. Once the space coordinate nodes are set up, they can use space shuttle to accurately reach the location. As long as they successfully set the coordinate array points of the space scroll, their mission will be completed, and the rest will be handed over to the professionals of the Dongfang family to mine. However, there is only one chance, because there is only one space scroll. Any magic scroll is very rare, and the technology to make scrolls is in the hands of a very small number of forces. For luxury items like space scrolls, that cannot be bought anywhere, even Kinshuo has only seen Ashiruya use it, that is, the time when he saw the Black Dragon Emperor at the top of the Tyrant Mountain range. It can be said that this time, the Mu family also spent a lot of money, and sacrificed a space scroll passed down from their ancestors. This space scroll is perfect for escaping, and it can move much farther than the instant movement of space mages. Fan's scalp was numb and he said, boss, you have to protect me. I don't have any means of defense at all. Manan immediately quit when he heard this, although he had means of defense. However, in a place where even monarchs would be destroyed, he, a high-level tortoise-shell mage, might not be able to withstand it. Don't be afraid of eggs, you won't die with your father here. Tangmyo gave them a reassurance without waiting for them to say anything. Although the two did not believe it very much, they felt a little relieved. After everyone was mentally prepared, the next step was to wait for an opportunity. King kept staring at the molten magma pool. He would give orders and wait for a molten magma hole that lasted for a long time. When a lava cavity is formed, the lava will splash everywhere. Flying over the lava in Qianchi Lake is an extremely suicidal act. They can only wait at the edge, quietly waiting for a lava cavity near the edge to appear. But the wait is very long. After all, lava cavities don't just appear when they want to, and sometimes, even if they appear, they may not appear near them. So patience is needed right now. Fortunately, Tangmyo's ice element is chilling enough to block most of the heat, so that others will not be burned. Otherwise, just waiting would be enough to exhaust everyone's patience. Chapter 457 Firewing Overlord. Just like that, an hour passed unknowingly. The bad thing is that Tangmyo's blue bar is thick after all, and the recovery speed is fast enough. If someone else could support the ice magic for so long, he would be exhausted and die. A man who can last long will always attract the attention of girls. Just like now, the girls of the Dongfang family all have extremely admiring eyes. Looking at Tang Mao, they all have a feeling that they are teasing themselves. Question mark? And I don't know how long it has been, and when it started, a strong wind suddenly blew in the distance, and the strong wind hit the magma in the air here. Even though Tang Mao has a small ice field to protect him, everyone still feels very uncomfortable. After all, this temperature is really too scary. Damn it, there wasn't such a strong wind before. Why is it blowing so hard now? Zhao Manan didn't complain before, because the consumption was not large, but this sudden strong wind made this place instantly hot, which made him angry and cursed. Hearing this, Tang Mao looked up at the sky, only to see that the volcanic cloud had begun to dissipate. At the top of the peak, a pair of huge red wings were slowly spreading out. Although they were far apart, they could still feel the opponent's powerful strength. The volcanic cloud was blown away by the West Kunlun wind. Damn it, how could this wind come so unfortunate? Mu Guangqing finally realized something and shouted, I'm so unlucky to have met you, Tang Mao and Mo Fan in my life. Zhao Manan said with tears in his eyes. The monarchical aura of the Fire Wing Overlord flying towards him made Zhao Manan feel like he was about to piss himself. Are there many monarchs and monsters in this world? Of course not. If there were monarchs everywhere, would humans still be able to survive? But why did he encounter monarch level creatures one after another? Isn't it because these two took him everywhere to die? What are you panicking about? Mo Fan looked calm, as if this monarch was not worthy of his attention. Tang Mao turned his head and looked at him curiously. Although he didn't say anything, he asked again, where did you get the courage? When Mo Fan saw Tang Mao looking at him, he smiled and said, boss, can't you defeat this small boss in a few minutes? After all, he had seen Tang Mao fight against the emperor. Mo Fan had absolute confidence in Tang Mao. Mu Qingguang, who was standing aside, saw the three people still chatting, and said in confusion, "Free, run. This is the monarch." Zhao Manan seemed to believe that Tang Mao could be defeated. The crying and shouting look just now disappeared in an instant, and he said calmly, "Old Mu, don't panic when encountering things. It's just a monarch. It's not like we haven't faced him before." Mu Qingguang originally wanted to run away with a few people, but after seeing that Tang Mao and the other two were indifferent, he felt that these three people were probably fools. However, think about it, in such a vast land, without any cover, what's the point of running? The other party is a monarch level creature with wings. Its speed is generally 6 times faster than the strongest high level wind mage. Mu Qingguang was already desperate. Looking at the people next to him who still wanted to run, he said helplessly, "If you run, there is only one way to die. Let's resist them together. Maybe we can wait for Dongfang Mo and others to support us. But how long can they hold out in front of the monarch level Firewing Overlord?" Tang Mao looked at the speed of the monarch and wanted to try to see who was faster compared to his extreme wind. Then, the 6 wings behind him opened instantly, and he squatted to accumulate power, looking at the people behind him and said, "Be careful, don't get burned to charcoal." The moment he finished speaking, with a bang, Tang Mao rushed towards the flying Firewing Overlord like a cannonball. When he flew towards the Firewing Overlord, the wind wings behind him suddenly added a gloomy chill. The original wind attribute was quickly replaced, and the high temperature area was replaced by a lower temperature. However, after all, it was the holy land of fire vein element. Even if its ice system was strong enough, it would only take a few seconds to cool down, and the temperature would return to its original high temperature. Similarly, the Firewing Overlord suddenly turned into a soul burial fire cone, drew a sharp diagonal line in the air, and suddenly inserted it down, coming towards Tang Mao. Ice Feather Needle. After the fusion of the Snow Girl, the wings behind him scattered some ice crystal white hair, and then under the fusion of the extreme cold ice, they turned into long thin needles one by one. Although the condensed needles were very thin, the cold air covered on them, even in the hot area, still had no intention of dissolving it. Under the push of Tang Mao, the ice needles were all ejected in an instant. Bang bang bang, the ice needles were so small that they could not be seen. When they rushed over, the Firewing Overlord had no intention of looking at them. When these ice needles collided with its head, they exploded instantly, and then the ice layer instantly wrapped up the Firewing Overlord. However, the ice didn't last too long. When everyone below was shocked, it suddenly broke with a crackling sound. When the flames burned again, the frozen ice slowly evaporated. Yee. Although the ice didn't cause any actual damage to it, it was obvious that the majesty of the monarch was provoked. After a roar, the flames on the huge body of the Firewing Overlord became more fierce. The air nearby seemed to be even hotter. Seeing that the other party was rushing like crazy, Tangmao didn't intend to fight it head on. Cooperating with the Snow Girl, he began to mobilize the poor ice element hundreds of miles away. Ice Crystal Prison. Absolute Zero. Ice of extreme cold. In the air, the Firewing Overlord ignited a hotter flame and fell rapidly, and at the moment of coming down, the huge wings suddenly flapped. However, what was found out was not a strong wind, but a large amount of fire rain. Although it was a rain of fire, it was not comparable to the sky flame funeral of a high-level fire mage. Of course, it was mainly due to the terrain. This place was originally a sea of fire, and the current rain of fire was like oil falling on the fire. Once it collided, the result was imaginable. Fortunately, the Firewing Overlord had a clear goal, which was to rush to Tangmao. Otherwise the people below would be miserable. Chichichi. And just when the rain of fire rushed towards Tangmao, it was extinguished in the air before it got close. That's right, the scorching hot rain of fire, even the rain of fire that could easily burn a high-level mage to death, was extinguished before it got close to Tangmao's ice. Yee. The Firewing Monarch was completely enraged when he saw that his attack was resolved like this. Its monarch's majesty was greatly challenged. The wings folded slightly, and then the Firewing Overlord rushed towards Tangmao like a missile. Bang! After a deafening sound, Tangmao fell directly from the mist, and the Firewing Overlord was also shaken away. As expected of the number one in the government, since he can fight against the monarch-level demon. Mu Qingguang said in shock. The other people who were shocked by the monarch also breathed a sigh of relief, and were also shocked. To be honest, Tangmao could fight against the monarch, which was something no one had expected. Mo Fan and Zhao Manayan also breathed a sigh of relief at the same time, and then Zhao Manayan said, sure enough, it's still Tangmao, the dog monster. Yeah. Mo Fan nodded, agreeing with this very much. At this time, in the air, Tangmao and the Firewing Overlord also stabilized their bodies. It seemed that he had never expected that he could not hurt Tangmao with his full strength attack, and then the Firewing Overlord suddenly condensed a large amount of flames. Chapter 458, Head-on Confrontation. After watching the Firewing Overlord accumulate power again, Tangmao did not hold back at all, and lightning flashed in his hand. Zilla. Zilla. As the thunder continued to gather, the sky, which was originally clear and blue, suddenly became cloudy. Thundernet. Then, Tangmao began to depict the constellations. Above him, a series of electric chains flickered and flickered, more and more. When the Firewing Overlord rushed down, a huge spider web had been successfully spliced. However, the Firewing Overlord did not seem to take the lightning seriously. The huge body seemed to condense into a huge meteorite covered with flames, falling straight down. In the fact of this kind of bombardment, humans have never had any advantage. After all, even if it is a super-class mage, the defense of the flesh cannot be compared with a demon of the general level. What's more, this is a monarch. Mu Guangqing below was so anxious that he shouted for Tangmao to dodge more. Unfortunately, Tangmao didn't intend to pay attention to him at all. In fact, it was only a few tens of seconds. When the Firewing Overlord crashed into the power grid, the flickering power grid suddenly burst out with destructive power. Boom boom boom. As the thunder on the net continued to explode, the thunder in the sky was also attracted and bombarded on its body. At this moment, the Firewing Overlord finally understood why this tiny human in front of him dared to confront him head on. The opponent's thunder was not this small power grid at all, but the terrifying elemental field force. After it was triggered on the body, the moment he was contaminated by lightning, he was destined to become a conductor that attracted thunder. Yee. Every time the thunder fell, it was comparable to a high-level magic bombardment. One or two did not cause much damage to it, but this endless thunder, when condensed, was completely a super level enhanced version of magic bombardment. Super class destruction magic. Even the monarch dare not underestimate it. In these few short seconds, the thunder not only restricted its movements, but also caused it serious trauma. In an instant, its majestic body began to bleed. However, even if a monarch level creature was severely injured, it was not easy to successfully kill it. Moreover, although its huge body was paralyzed, it fanned the flames burning on its body towards Tang Mao in one breath. In its view, as long as Tang Mao was cremated, there would be a chance to get rid of the thunder that kept falling. So even though it suffered a very serious bombardment, it still insisted on spraying out the flames that were still charged. The moment this fireball appeared through the thunder, not to mention Tang Mao, even the stunned people below felt a scalding sensation. They were sure that, if they took this blow, they would definitely die. Although Zhao Manan kept complaining, at the moment the fireball rushed towards Tang Mao, he still jumped up and used his cool wing magic tool to resist it. Water sky curtain. Light shield. When he arrived in front of Tang Mao, layer after layer of defense appeared in front of the two. Tang Mao himself did not expect that when this beast was bombed, he did not think of running away. Instead, he wanted to cremate himself. It must be said that at that moment, he felt a little bit defeated. But at the moment, when he described the ice defense, Zhao Manan, the cowardly dog who said he was greedy for life and death, suddenly appeared. To be honest, Tang Mao was quite moved at this moment. After all, this bombing was the full force of the Fire Wing Overlord. The full force of the monarch was in the most advantageous position of the fire element. This power could even destroy this mountain range. Zhao Manan was a tortoise shell, but he was just a high level mage. How could he withstand it? Black snake magic armor. Ice crystal prison. Tang Mao also fully released his ice defense. The magic tools and light magic on the two people's bodies also appeared in front of layer after layer of defense, and the fireball also hit the first layer of defense. Boom. Swish. Although water overcomes fire, the gap in strength is too big. The ice wall was dissolved in an instant, and then the water sky curtain also evaporated directly. After the layers of defense were broken, the power of the fireball still showed no signs of weakening. It is conceivable that, if he only resisted this attack by himself, even if he could survive with the relationship of the demon system, he would have to lie in bed for several months. Obviously, he still underestimated the power of the monarch level demon. In the case of not being able to demonize, although the damage of the thunder system is full of absolute destruction, the defense is not absolute. Bang bang bang. When all the defenses in front of him were broken, Tang Mao rushed forward in a hurry, and the automatic defense ice layer condensed out. But it still broke in an instant. Fortunately, when the fireball was about to touch the body, Yanji suddenly emerged and started a firefight. Boom. With the appearance of Yanji, the two soul fires directly confronted the fireball. Then, with a blast, Zhao Manan was directly bounced out. But because he was bounced back by the residual power of the fire wave, he was not seriously injured, but just a little burned. Seeing the effect, Tang Mao also hurriedly released his Kingluan fire to help Yanji resist. Boom. Boom. The fireballs condensed by the three soul fires kept colliding with the extremely powerful fireball. Tang Mao and Yanji both felt the rapid consumption of magic power. Fortunately, the layers of defense resisted it. Otherwise, they would have been shaken away the moment they resisted. Mu Qingguang and others below also came back to their senses, and then the ice, water, and light defense skills were also used. One by one, the constellations lit up. Tang Mao's pressure was getting smaller and smaller. When the fireball was completely offset, he also fell down with some powerlessness. Fortunately, Mo Fan rushed over and caught him, so he didn't fall on the hot ground before he could mobilize his magic. At this moment, the Fire Wing Overlord in the sky also got rid of the Thunder Domain with blood all over his body. Yee. After years of being a tyrant here, the Fire Wing Overlord suffered such a big loss for the first time. For a while, the roar continued to resound. The cave was full of blood red eyes, and you could see the flames constantly emitting boom boom, and at this time, the magma area below also exploded again. After seeing the hole, everyone jumped directly under the magma without any hesitation. The plan is not like this. Guan King also jumped down, and his tears fell during the gliding process. Although he didn't want to jump, the Firewing Overlord was obviously stimulated at the moment. A monarch without raging anger is absolutely terrifying. If he stayed there, he would die. So, he could only choose to jump. Ice Coffin. When descending, Tang Mao recovered and left Mo Fan's hand. Then he cast a high level ice magic to take everyone. Water Flower Sky Curtain, Seal of Baksha. Similarly, Zhao Mannian also hurriedly cast a Dead Defense. After all, this is not the best place. So when they descended to a certain point, they each cast a defensive magic to resist the hot feeling of the magma. The 50-meter brown magma layer was extremely long and deep for them. It was like a reincarnation of torture. Finally, everything became hotter and hotter, and everyone fell into a layer of turbid and heavy air. These air masses were very strange, and the resistance was even greater than those magmas. Fortunately, these air masses did not harm people. With a little effort, they squeezed in, and the horror of the brown magma was immediately blocked. The brown molten lava did not seep down, and the air mass was completely incompatible with the molten lava. It was as if everyone had fallen into an invisible transparent soft pool. They needed to exert a lot of force to continue falling. With the continuous use of various defensive magics by several people, they finally saved their lives. I thought I was going to die. Master Tang, you really refreshed my understanding of mages. Mu Qingguan looked like he had survived a disaster and said to Tang Mao, if it weren't for the fact that I couldn't connect to the Star Palace, that damn Firewing Overlord would have been killed by a thunderbolt long ago. Although his high level magic was comparable to the super level, it was easy to kill the commander in seconds, but it was far from enough to kill the monarch in seconds. But if he had used super level magic just now, the Firewing Overlord would have turned into ashes in the Thunder Domain the moment he entered the Thunder Net, not to mention ejecting the fireball. After all, with his Thunder Burst, the destructive power of super level magic is already a forbidden technique. After hearing the word Star Palace, the people from both the Mu family and the Danfang family widened their eyes. It seemed as if they had heard it wrong, but they looked at the people around them, and it was clear that they had not heard it wrong, which meant that the young man in front of them was already a superclass mage. Question mark? Don't look at me like that. The Thunder system has long been superclass, but it still takes time for the control of the stars to be proficient. Tang Mao shrugged. Master Tang is really a young genius. Mu Qingguan praised. Then he said, everyone go down first. After going down, there is a stable melting cave. We will discuss what to do next there. No one had any objections. After all, they couldn't leave now. This place is isolated from space magic, and the space scroll cannot be used at all. Without sufficient food and water, staying in this hot hell-like place is just waiting to die. Chapter 459, Fire Element Advancement. The heavy air slowly faded away. This rugged and tortuous brown crystal cave world, like a maze, was unimaginably large. Almost every 50 or 60 meters, you could see the indistinguishable forks and branches, which were narrow, spacious, or connected in all directions. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack to find a designated circular stone wall in such a place. In such a place, although you will not be baptized by magma, it is easy for fire poison to invade your body. Fortunately, there is a healing mage in the team, which did not have any impact. However, in the process of finding the way, everyone was not very smooth. Tang Mao regretted not bringing Ling Ling with him. But when he thought of the danger of such a place, he felt that the little loli should stay in the city obediently. Although the journey was not very smooth, after a while, they came to a cave. This cave was very large, with a diameter of more than 300 meters. There were countless such small tunnels on its walls, which showed that the high temperature fires scattered everywhere finally gathered here from different paths, just like countless streams pouring into a large water abyss. The scorching white magma was a curtain-like barrier, which seemed to be guarding something in that small world. It was not easy to pass through here. At this time, Tang Mao, who was observing everywhere, found that there was fire overflowing from another small tunnel. It felt like the throat of a giant fire dragon. With the snoring of this giant fire dragon, the flames were spitting out in a regular pattern. It may not be difficult to pass through here. However, I need Yanji to devour the soul fire here. Tang Mao pointed to a small tunnel over there and said. Looking at the flames coming in, everyone felt that the danger there was not weaker than the terrifying area in front of them. Mu Qingguang couldn't help but say, Master Tang, are you sure you are okay? Tang Mao had just fought a wave of the Fire Wing Overlord. It seemed that it was not an easy thing to take the fire under the impact. If something went wrong, I was afraid that I would have to explain it here. Although others were also very interested in the soul fire, this place really stopped them. Sure enough, the more powerful the soul seed, the harder it is to get it. Tang Mao didn't waste any words and directly brought the little Yanji closer to here. Although the fire magic consumed a lot of energy, he originally had a very fast magic recovery speed. In this place full of flames, his recovery speed was faster than that of normal people. Relying on the resistance of the two element of ice and fire, Tang Mao finally approached the place where the soul fire was. Go. Soul fire not only has spirituality, but also has its own heart and soul, and has a temperament. Some soul fires are like wild horses, very agitated and alert. To subdue this kind of soul fire, you need to have a stronger aura, and often need to confront it head on to make it surrender completely. However, for Yanji who wants to swallow it, there is no need for any trouble. After all, she is the darling of the fire element. Just a contact, the 3 leaves of Crimson Soul Fire have been absorbed by her. Hoo. At this time, the magnetite irrigated down, and Tang Mao and the Snow Girl joined forces to welcome it. Swish, he blocked another wave of magnetite irrigation, and there was not much ice magic left. After all, there was not much ice here, and he had never stopped releasing ice since he set foot here. Just when Tang Mao was having a headache, Yanji successfully contained the 3rd soul fire in her small body. After absorbing this new soul fire, Yanji felt like she wanted to sleep. Sleep anyway. Tang Mao could mobilize the energy of the flame, so her promotion would not affect anything. After Yanji returned to the summoning space, 4 kinds of flames suddenly ignited on Tang Mao's body. The burning sensation around here instantly dissipated. Originally, this 3-leaf Crimson Soul Fire was the master here. Now surrounded by the Blue Phoenix Fire, the Sky Level Fire and the Fierce Cloud Fire, he would naturally not be hurt. And Tang Mao directly named this 3-leaf Crimson Soul Fire Meteor Fire. Then, with the integration of the Meteor Fire, he easily arranged the Space Magic Node, and this time the task was successfully completed. Mu Qingguang and others were responsible for dealing with the Sejin Stone. After all, if they were to leave, this was a problem that had to be solved. Tang Mao and Zhao Manan adjusted themselves here. Mo Fan was also left here by Tang Mao. They had to resist the Fire Wing Overlord. When they entered here, they were in Yuxu Town, so they would definitely do their best. Then it was the turn of the Mu family and the Dongfang family to contribute. After resting, not only did the fire magic recover quickly, but because of the addition of Meteor Fire, his fire galaxy had a sense of expansion. Although the Meteor Fire was not absorbed by him, because he could use it, and this was a line full of fire element, the fire system, which had already reached the 2nd level of perfection, also came directly to the breakthrough point. Tang Mao would not miss the opportunity to break through. While they were dealing with the Sejin Stone, they began to break through. When Mo Fan and Zhao Manan realized that something was wrong, they were stunned. To be honest, they really didn't expect that their eldest brother would choose to break through in such a place. However, he was secretly envious at the same time. After all, it seemed that Tang Mao was about to break through the 3rd level of the fire system. The fire system was already at the 3rd level. Their main system was only at the 3rd level, and Tang Mao seemed to be a minor of the minor, right? After all, he was already at the super level of the strongest thunder system, and the ice system was also at the higher level. As for the others, although it was not clear what level they were at, it was certain that they must be high. Boom. About half an hour later, a burst of flames broke out around Tang Mao, and the 2 of them immediately distanced themselves from him. Fuck. This bastard broke through without even saying hello, and almost burned my hair, which is worth nearly 10,000. Zhao Manan cursed. Tang Mao stood up and turned his head, saying disdainfully, "Your head is only worth a few dozen. Boss, what level are you in the magic system now?" Mo Fan didn't care about the fire. but was very curious about Tang Mao's strength. Thunder is at super level, ice is at level 3, shadow and fire are at high level 3, while space, wind, and summon are still at high level 2. Tang Mao didn't hide anything, and told the truth. "What the hell are you?" Zhao Manan exclaimed, and then asked in confusion, "By the way, you have been at super level for so long, why haven't you awakened a new system yet?" Mo Fan was also very curious. You know, Tang Mao already had these magic systems when he was at high level, right? "I have a special physique and can't awaken them." "Forget it, you won't." As he said that, Tang Mao suddenly stopped, then looked at the entrance and said, "Someone is coming. Maybe they have finished dealing with it?" Zhao Manan thought it was Mu Qingguang and others, and said with a smile. Mo Fan looked at Tang Mao's appearance and obviously realized that the person who came was not a friend. The person who came is a super level mage, but not from our team. Tang Mao said again. Even if Zhao Manan was stupid, he still reacted and said, "Is it the enemy? You have a good reaction ability. I thought I could give you a surprise attack at this time." A charming and soft voice came from the tunnel. The first thing that caught my eye was a pair of 15 cm silver high heels sparkling with crystal embellishments, followed by a pair of white and slender legs. These legs were very long and beautiful, and her tight black hot leather pants only covered her thighs, so that these perfect legs were exposed without any cover. She walked with a cat step, holding a laser cigarette between her hands. Her purple red lips pursed into a heart shape, and she exhaled smoke casually. The enchantment and charm of the smoke were always arousing the hearts of men. Although it looked like a good gun mount, the three of them didn't have any special ideas at the moment. After all, this was not a safe area. Who would have the heart to think about this? "You look good, but you don't think before you speak. I'll give you a chance to live. Tell me who you are," Zhao Manan asked. "Oh, are you kidding, handsome boy?" The woman giggled. Then she said, "But it doesn't matter if I tell you who I am. My name is Muzumian, and I'm from the Mu family in the imperial capital." "Why would someone from the Mu family come here?" Zhao Manan asked, puzzled. "Stupid, there must be a traitor in this team, otherwise how could someone from the Mu family come here?" Tang Mao scolded without any hesitation. Zhao Manan curled his lips, but did not refute. After all, what Tang Mao said was not wrong. Mo Fan happened to see Qishan behind the woman, and then pointed at him and said, "Boss, isn't this the dog you mentioned?" "Yeah, that's right. He didn't get to lick Jiao Jio's cousin, so he betrayed her directly," Tang Mao said with disdain. Although Mu Nuxin was somewhat realistic, Qishan's behavior was too inhuman. After he was called out, he no longer hid, and walked out directly, sneering disdainfully. "Do you think I will still work for the Mu family? A bunch of domineering children of aristocratic families who treat people like dogs and immediately abandon them when they see better benefits. Since you can't let me live a good life, then no one will have a good life." Tang Mao showed his disdain for this kind of person without reservation. "Trash. It doesn't matter whether you work for the Mu family or not. The important thing is that I really look down on you from the bottom of my heart. You what's so good about a woman like Mu Nuxin? She pretends to be a saint all day long, but in fact, she is more scheming than anyone else. In her eyes, there is no emotion at all, only calculations and interests. Everyone is her chess piece, useful chess piece, useless chess piece. Unlike me, Muzumian, my reputation is a little bad, but it has always been voluntary. If people who help me want money and status, I will give it to them. If they want my body, I will give it to them too." Muzumian suddenly smiled like a flower, her voice trembling and seductive. "That's right, he's only worthy of a boss like you." Tang Mao nodded in agreement. After Tang Mao's description, Zhao Manan's original impression of him as a good gun suddenly became less attractive. "You're looking for death." Muzumian, who was originally speaking softly and flirtingly, suddenly became angry, looking at Tang Mao and the other two without hiding her murderous intent. Chapter 460. Tang Yu is in trouble. The high-level constellations were quickly drawn, and the Skyflame funeral bombarded Tang Mao and the other two. Zhao Manan hurriedly stood in front and put up a solid shield for defense. Although he was a superclass mage, what could the Firewing Overlord do if he could beat a superclass mage of average strength? Bang, bang, bang. After resisting a round of strafing, Tangmao and Emofan did not wait for her to continue bombing. They each drew the lightning constellation. Thunderclaw. Emofan jumped up and bombarded Muzumian. Muzumian was a superclass mage after all. Even if she couldn't dodge, she had no shortage of defensive magic tools in her hands, and a good armor magic tool. Crack. After a round of thunder bombardment, Muzumian was only slightly embarrassed by the relationship between defensive magic and magic tools, but it can be seen that she did not suffer any actual damage. Thunderstorm. Just after Emofan's bombing ended, Tangmao came behind her without knowing when, and released a thunderstorm between the few people, and at the same time, a wall of ice condensed around them. There was no way. There were still Mu Qingguang and his men who were locked in their mines. Although he could completely ignore them and give Muzumian a huge thunderstorm, but doing so would make it more or less difficult for Munijiro, so he would save her if he could. This thunder explosion and ice defense were formed in the blink of an eye. However, Muzumian was at least a superclass mage, and she still had some reaction ability. And the main thing was that when she entered, she had heard about Tangmao's terrifying destructive thunder. Of course, at first she didn't think that it was nonsense, that the damage of high level magic could surpass superclass magic. However, the power of this thunderstorm made her realize that she was a little narrow-minded. There really is such a thing in this world. Under Tangmao's extremely powerful control, although the thunderstorm was fierce, it did not hurt Mu Qingguang and his men under the ice wall. Although Muzumian took the damage and dodged, her subordinates were miserable. Even though they used magic tools, they were all knocked unconscious. Of course, Kishan, who had seen the horror of Tangmao's thunder, had already fled when Tangmao approached in the chaos. Even though Muzumian had some scars, he was intact. "Damn bastard, you pissed me off," Muzumian said angrily, and then began to describe the Star Palace. Seeing the magnificent Star Palace made of these gorgeous stars around her, Mu Qingguang and others who had just been rescued were panicked. This is fucking. It's like they are going to be killed. Because it was a superclass magic, they even forgot to describe the constellations. There was no way. The aura of the superclass magic was oppressive, making people fear from the bottom of their hearts. The gate of hell, molten veins. The moment Muzumian performed the superclass, her temperament changed. Her eyes were extremely arrogant, like a judge of fire who could kill people with just one word. The huge and magnificent Star Palace behind her made her look sacred and majestic. After the gate of flame emerged, it began to bombard them from all directions. The ice wall, that had dispersed before, also emerged again with a dong 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 sound, blocking several people. Wow. The impact of the fire wave was very strong, but with Tangmao and the snow girl resisting, the fire wave still couldn't break through the ice layer. Mu Qingguang and the others had no intention of resisting at first, but after this scene, they subconsciously put on their best armor magic tools. Who wants to die if they can live? Why don't you help quickly? Why are you all standing there? Although he is also a superclass mage, his ice system is only high level perfection, and his defense is not extreme. Compared with the absolute destructive thunder, defense is not at this level at all. Hearing this, those who could release defensive means and use defensive magic tools showed them without any reservation at this moment. After watching them cast layers of defensive magic tools, Tangmao dispersed his own power. Then he began to draw constellations. The thunder constellations were completed one after another. Although it was his first time to draw Xingang, he had been controlling it for more than a month, so it was not without a chance of success. Moreover, the more desperate the situation, the more potential it can arouse. The punishment of the thundering, the prohibition of the 9 rings. As the minutes and seconds passed, Xingang finally succeeded. A sky halberd transformed by lightning, which was countless long lightnings that were enough to penetrate the clouds, twisted together. Its length and thickness were like a giant pillar towering in the sky. Shocking purple eye-catching thunder halberd. Although Tangmao had long said that he was a superclass mage, a mage who could not release superclass magic, compared to him at a high level, only increased some damage. However, the success of depicting and releasing the superclass magic, coupled with his thunder of destruction, the power can be imagined. Swish. After the thunder halberd was successfully condensed, Tang Mao released it directly. The people in front, who had been struggling for nearly a minute, the moment they felt the thunder of destruction rushing past them, the blue molten fire was instantly dispersed, and the thunder halberd rushed straight towards Muzumian. Muzumian originally thought that they could not resist for much longer, but who knew? The next moment, such a fierce thunder halberd flew out. This is obviously not a high-level magic. However, she really didn't understand how this group of high-level magicians released superclass magic. Boom boom boom. After a thunder sounded, lightning burst in all directions. After Muzumian felt the destructive power of the thunder halberd, she hurriedly used a high-level magic weapon. Although she was protected by a superior armor magic tool, she didn't think that she could withstand the horrible damage with just the magic tool. Boom boom. As the lightning halberd destroyed the protection of the magic tool, the whole cave was shaken. Moreover, the magic tools on Muzumian's body were broken, and she looked extremely embarrassed at this time. Electric whip. At this moment, a star map in Tang Mao's hand condensed into a lightning whip, and then a constellation of lightning magic was added, and a whip was swung over. Muzumian, who had just experienced a wave of bombardment, had no means of defense at all, and the magic tools on her body were directly shattered by this whip. A white piece was exposed to the air. Although this woman's temper was very annoying, after seeing this scene, Zhao Manan and Emofan, who had just dealt with the traitor, still showed an inexplicable smile. Muzumian's magic tool was destroyed, and she herself was hit by the thunder whip. Looking at Tang Mao, her eyes were filled with fear. For this kind of injury, if she hadn't experienced it herself, it would really be. She couldn't imagine it. This was true. Where is this superclass magic? Her best magic tools and magic weapons broke the defense directly with one strike. Although magic weapons are not superclass magicians, they can still resist a superclass magic. But, in front of Tang Mao's superclass magic, it was directly broken. There is no suspense. Muzumian no longer had the coquettish look before, but was extremely embarrassed. She couldn't even run away. When she was beaten to convulsions, Tang Mao directly used the shadow sword formation to seal all her magic power. Now she was a useless person. Hold them down. We should leave. After solving the problem, Tang Mao looked at the few people who were at a loss and said, "It's not that they haven't seen the world, but today's scene is really too shocking. A person who had just been promoted to the superclass, against a famous superclass mage, broke the defense with just one superclass magic, and then made the opponent faint with a high-level magic. This originally deadly situation was broken so easily." After hearing what Tang Mao said, Mu Qingguang hurriedly ordered the people from the Mu family and the Dongfang family to arrest the people from the Mu family and the traitor Qishan from their Mu family. After leaving here, Dongfang Mo, who was waiting outside, understood the whole story. To be honest, he never thought that the Mu family would come to snipe. He never thought that this young man who was very optimistic about the Mu family would do such a thing. Everyone thought that Qishan was a man who dared to break and then build, but who knew that he became such a villain, which was disgusting to the extreme and even more infuriating. However, the two families were even more grateful to Tang Mao for this. After all, if it weren't for him, whether it was the Mu family or the Dongfang family, the future would be the same as those families annexed by the Mu family. After returning to the Lookout Yang station safely, everyone was exhausted and fell asleep, even Tang Mao. At the beginning, he had already fought hard with the Firewing Overlord, and then he had a head-on fight with the Mu family's superclass magician. In addition to the last superclass magic, he naturally needs to cultivate himself well. Fortunately, he doesn't need to worry about the rest of the things. Just waiting for the profit sharing is enough. After 2 days of rest, Tang Mao recovered his magic power. Now Zhao Yanji has fallen into the stage of sleeping and retreating again. Zunu seems to have fallen asleep because Tang Mao broke through the superclass level. The two girls are also rushing to the mature stage to advance. He is very satisfied with the harvest of this trip. Not only does he have 4 kinds of flames, but he also allows the fire system to advance to the 3rd level of the high level. No matter how you think about it, this adventure is worth it. Without staying for long, on the 3rd day, Tang Mao was the first to leave here. Because he received a call from Tang Yu, it seems that he was in trouble. She didn't say it very clearly, and that's why Tang Mao left so anxiously. No matter what the matter is, as long as it's his wife calling, he naturally has no reason not to be anxious. After all, he has always been the one who feels guilty. Chapter 461, The Blood Clan from the Magic City, Nanxi Mountain. In the trial room. After Tang Mao rushed over, he was relieved to see Tang Yu, who was intact. Yu, what's wrong with you? Are you in trouble? Tang Yu naturally knew about his trip to Kunlun Mountain, but she didn't expect that he would come so soon after she called. Tang Yu was slightly moved and showed a satisfied smile, looking at Tang Mao, and explained, I'm fine. I just need your help with something. Have you dealt with your business? I thought you were in trouble. Tang Mao complained, a little dissatisfied, but thinking about it carefully, it seemed that Tang Yu just said that he needed his help, but still let him deal with his own business first. Speaking of which, it was my concern that made me confused. I didn't make it clear. I'm sorry. After hearing Tang Mao's complaint, Tang Yu said, a little guilty. After hesitating for a moment, she asked again, did the fire vein of Kunlun Mountain go smoothly this time? Yes, it has been solved. Tang Mao nodded, and then asked, by the way, Yu, do you need my help? He would naturally not be angry with Tang Yu because of such a small matter. Didn't your subordinate subdue you a member of the Blood Clan? I want him to help me manage the Blood Clan people in this area. Blood Clan. What happened? He was naturally familiar with this clan. Recently, there have been many young girls dying for no reason near Nanxi Mountain. We can already confirm that it was done by the Blood Clan, but after the other party took action, they hid too well. This is my jurisdiction. Although I'm not the direct person in charge, I don't want to see those young and energetic little girls being killed like this. Tang Yu was also a little angry, but she had heard about the Blood Clan from Tang Mao. If the other party wants to hide, it will be almost more difficult to find than the Black Church, because they can live like ordinary people. It's a small matter. I'll call Yuxu Town and ask Bora to come over. After Tang Mao understood it, he agreed directly. As an old vampire, Bora can easily find these vampires. If they behave themselves, he will collect some protection fees from them. If they cause trouble, he will kill them and be done with it. After a phone call, Tang Mao approached Tang Yu again. It has been a long time since they last met. Of course, it doesn't matter how long they haven't seen each other. What's important is that, since Tang Yu went to Yuxu Town, he hasn't had the opportunity to talk about life with her for a long time. As a Tang Mao who has accumulated so much, facing that towering part, well, plus the topic of 2E, he must talk about vacation. Seeing Tang Mao suddenly approaching, Tang Yu also subconsciously understood what was going to happen next. Not here. Tang Yu wanted to pretend to be serious. However, before she could show her seriousness, she was lying on the chair. Recalling the last time when her subordinates looked at her differently and seeing Tang Mao's seamless connection, she had to cover her red lips with both hands. She didn't want this kind of embarrassing thing to happen again. But Tang Yu underestimated Tang Mao, who had been accumulating for a long time, and his explosive power made her lose her armor. In the evening, when the two left the office, Tang Yu's oval face was full of blush. Her beautiful eyes were full of shame and anger, but at the same time, they were mixed with strong affection. However, seeing the eyes of the members of the tribunal who greeted her were full of other meanings, she was so ashamed and angry. Tang Mao didn't have this awareness, but from time to time he showed his strong side to the girls here, as if to tell them that a real man should be like this. After noticing Tang Mao's little action, Tang Yu was almost angry. There was no way, and finally she dragged him away with shadow magic, as if escaping from here. Although they are both young, the young couple should be a little excited after not seeing each other for a long time. But this is the tribunal for the whole afternoon. What do you think of this sacred place? The chief judge has every reason to reprimand her. Although this will not cause her to be demoted, how can she allow such a shameful thing? So, after leaving the trial and returning to the apartment, Tang Yu felt that it was necessary to teach Tang Mao a lesson. This guy is getting more and more presumptuous now. However, Tang Mao, who knows her, how could he give her a chance to teach him a lesson? At least before he lay down, this did not exist. Men, when they should be strong, they should be strong. Although Tang Yu has a bad temper, when the two of them felt a wave of excitement from the entrance to the balcony, the tense and exciting feeling instantly dispersed all the small universes. The next night, Tang Mao, who woke up, took Bora, who had already arrived, and searched all over the city. As a vampire, although the current vampires and its mutations are different, the smell is not much different. It is not difficult to find the same kind. In one night, the two searched a lot. However, these vampires are all good citizens. They live here like normal people, and have never done anything to hurt ordinary people. Of course, they did not gain nothing. At least they learned that there was a vampire from the Blood Clan who had just come here from the Magic City a few days ago. It was this vampire who had recently often killed women in the cities around this area. Upon learning this, Tang Mao immediately asked the people here to find out about the evil vampire from the Blood Clan, and took them to find the other party's trace. Unfortunately, the answer they got was that the other party was a Blood Clan from the Magic City, and they appeared here only because the Magic City seemed to have encountered trouble and were avoiding risks. However, they just left last night. The vampire who was making trouble here was called Nidan. He was a vampire from a clan in the Magic City. Because of the clan relationship, he also had a very high status in the Blood Clan. In this world, no matter what kind of demon or alien race, they all have different statuses like humans. As for those who are from different clans, Tang Mao didn't care at all. After all, not to mention taking action himself, the pressure from Bora alone was enough to make the other party bow down. It was just this name, he always felt, as if he had heard it somewhere before. However, since he knew that the other party had left Nangxi Mountain, and all the Blood Clan members in this area expressed their willingness to pay protection fees to honor Tang Mao let him go directly. After all, there is nothing wrong with wanting to live like a human. Although he is not a Buddhist, he will not kill any aliens he catches. Afterwards, Tang Mao told Tang Yu about what happened here. After Tang Yu knew that everything was fine, she did not let it go. After all, according to what these vampires said, this Blood Clan member who was causing trouble in Nangxi Mountain seemed to have been committing crimes everywhere. Even if he was not in her protected area, since Tang Mao had the ability, Tang Yu still hoped that he could help find this scourge and solve it. It can also be regarded as eliminating harm for those dead young girls. Tang Mao is not a nosy person, but since the first wife has spoken. In addition, the Magic City is so big, there must be a lot of Blood Clan members, and they should indeed get to know each other. After all, Bora is such a big Blood Clan boss, shouldn't he get some extra money for himself? Immediately, he took Bala and returned to the Magic City overnight. Outside the Magic City airport, just after getting off the plane, it was almost 0 o'clock. Bala felt a little sleepy and said, "Master, do we still have to look for the younger generations of the Blood Clan? I have my wife's orders, I have protection fees to collect, and I can also protect the young girls. Do you think there is any reason for me not to do this?" Tang Mao looked at Bala beside him and asked. Okay. Although Bala wanted to have a good sleep, his master had already spoken, so he naturally didn't dare to say anything more. However, the Magic City is different from Nangxi Mountain. There are also many Blood Clan members here. After searching for a while, Bala suddenly opened his eyes, and then frowned and said, "Master, it seems that someone is performing the blood map ritual." Huh. Tang Mao paused. He still had some understanding of this. To put it bluntly, this thing is just to create vampires. But who would be willing to become a Blood Clan if they can be a good person? Where is it? Let's go. Regardless of the situation, Tang Mao said immediately. Bala nodded and led the way. Tang Mao opened his 6 wings, and they left in an instant. Except for some dust, it was as if no one had appeared here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 462 Liu Zion and Liu Ru. At this time, the cellar of the Northland Club was filled with rows of wine racks, many of which were empty. Some of the more expensive red wines were wiped clean without a speck of dust. The wine cellar was very clean and quiet, completely isolating the sounds from the hall and bar above. In the darkness, there seemed to be a tick-tick sound coming out, maintaining a relatively even rhythm. There is a round table in the center of the wine cellar. The table is half hollow. Two girls who look exactly the same are tied up there, like they are undergoing an ancient feudal sacrificial ceremony. Their wrists have traces of being cut open. The dripping sound is the blood dripping from their arteries. One of the girls has a white face, and no blood can be seen, but her lips are pink and smooth, which makes people feel pity. At this time, she has been mumbling weakly, "Sister, I'm sorry, it's my sister who is useless." Although Eliuru couldn't turn her head, she also felt guilty when she heard her sister Eliuzan's constant apologies. After all, if she hadn't been provoking her beyond her ability, she wouldn't have become what she is now. "Sister, it's my fault. I'm useless." For Eliuru, the sister Eliuzan who has been taking care of her since her parents left, what can she blame her for? Being entangled by a vampire, she didn't tell herself, and it was completely for her own good. However, it was her own stupidity that led to such a result. Bang. Just as Eliuru blamed herself, and Eliuzan kept apologizing, a loud noise suddenly sounded. Eliuru came to her senses a little, but she felt disgusted. On the contrary, Eliuzan was scared. The two sisters knew who could appear here at this time. Who else could it be, except Nidang, who suddenly appeared that night, and was attacked by them without any damage. He wanted to turn the two sisters into his kind, and tell them that vampires have longer lifespans than humans, and most importantly, they can stay young forever. However, the price of all this is that from now on, the two sisters will become his partners. Oh, maybe it would be more appropriate to call them slaves. However, after becoming like that, Eliuru would rather die. And Eliuzan regretted why she agreed to exchange blood for money to get to know this horrible demon, and finally caused so much trouble. Master, they seem to have. Bala looked at the two identical women in front of him, paused, observed Tang Mao's expression, and after seeing that he had a calm face, he continued, "If there is no blood clan to pass on blood to them, they will probably become vampire monsters." Tang Mao looked at the two identical girls, feeling a little puzzled and also curious. Looking at the two women, he said, "What are your names? Who brought you here?" Eliuzan naturally heard what Bora said just now. She didn't care whether she lived or died, but she didn't want her sister to be like this. She hurriedly asked, "You are not a vampire. Can you save my sister? I asked your names." Tang Mao did not take action and continued, "My name is Eliuzan, and my sister is Eliuru." Although Eliuzan was worried about her sister, she did not dare to refute the person in front of her and responded timidly, "Untie them." Tang Mao ordered. Although it is not clear how Eliuru is still alive now, and although it is not clear how Eliuzan is not dead, he thinks that this pair of twin sisters can be trained. After being rescued, the two were extremely weak, as if they were drained of energy. Tang Mao pulled them one by one to his shoulders. Then he said, "I can let you live, you don't have to turn into monsters, and I can give you a stable home. However, you have already accepted the vampire ritual. If you want to be normal, suck my blood." The two sisters sniffed the hot masculine scent emanating from Tang Mao, and they all unconsciously wanted to get closer. However, whether it was the timid elder sister or the younger sister with the opposite personality, they all resisted the urge to bite him. After all, there is no free lunch in the world, and Tang Mao obviously hadn't finished the rest of the words. "However, after sucking my blood, you have to follow my arrangements." Tang Mao looked at the two sisters who were obviously eager to suck him, but they were forcing themselves to hold back, and continued to speak with some appreciation. "Can you please let my sister go?" Eliuzan spoke weakly at this time. Although she was a little confused, she still didn't want her sister to become a slave girl. But Eliuru also said, "Let my sister go. I will agree to anything you want." Although you two sisters have a deep affection for each other, you two seem to have made a mistake. Tang Mao looked at the identical sisters. If they were not a pair, wouldn't their blood be wasted? The two sisters were a little confused at this time, but they still looked at Tang Mao, wanting to hear what he had to say. And he didn't waste any time and continued, I came here to deal with the restless vampires. I saved you only because you are twins. Otherwise, with your current state, I should have killed you. Bora also saw that his dog owner was typically interested in the sisters. He wanted them to become himself. Well, although it was shameless, he still assisted. You two should be grateful that you can meet my master in this situation. With the blood of the master, you will be several times stronger than many vampires. The vampires who have been baptized by Tangmao's mature demon blood are different from the vampires who rely on ordinary people to change. At least, they don't need to suck any blood. Even if they need to, as long as they get Tangmao's permission, absorbing a little bit will be equivalent to the amount of blood that ordinary vampires can absorb in a year without breaking the law. Looking at the mysterious expressions of the two sisters, and seeing that Tangmao had no intention of speaking, but seemed very patient, he had to continue to explain. After hearing this, Liu Zhan and Liu Ru were indeed grateful. In this way, they don't have to die, and they don't have to become monsters. There is really nothing wrong. However, Liu Zhan still doesn't want her sister to become one. She still has better choices in life. While she was hesitating, Liu Ru had already bitten Tangmao's neck. She was cold all over, cold to the bone, and a soft cold lip was deeply imprinted on Tangmao's neck. Liu Zhan saw that her sister had made a choice for her, so she bit the other side in the same way. Tangmao clearly felt that his blood was being drawn out of his body. It must be said that the appetite of these two sisters is still quite large. If it weren't for the blood bottle, he felt that he was afraid that he would faint from excessive blood loss. Of course, after the two sisters recovered their vitality, they took the initiative to leave. When they sucked blood, they had one idea, and when they stepped back after sucking blood, they had another idea! Exclamation mark. To be honest, they never thought that one day, they would actually suck blood! Exclamation mark. Although Tangmao did not lose too much blood, he still replenished a blood bottle. At this time, the owner here, a middle-aged man, a vampire, walked down. You are. The moment he saw Bora, he was obviously a little excited. It seemed like he had met his father. Bora didn't even bother to pay attention to him. At this time, Tangmao pointed at the middle-aged man and said, he brought you two sisters here? The middle-aged man looked over when he heard the voice, and then he realized the two women around Tangmao had completely turned into vampires. If he remembered correctly, shouldn't Nidang go to search for blood at this time? Of course, he also reminded the other party not to go too far. After all, if a large number of young girls died, it would not be a good thing for them. It might affect their daily life. To be honest, this middle-aged man is still a vampire who likes stability. Even if it is occasional blood sucking, it will not hurt the other party at all. However, who would have thought that a big boss would come so soon? Moreover, this big boss seemed to listen to the words of a human youth. When he was thinking about it, Liu Zhan shook her head and responded, it's not him. Are you the one in charge here? Tangmao suddenly thought of something and asked in a low voice. The middle-aged man glanced at Bora, and Bora said directly, this is my master. Whether you live or die is decided by him. Hearing this, the middle-aged man panicked instantly and said hurriedly, my name is Ding Shan, and it is Nidang who caught them here. Sir, please be generous and spare my family. Ding Yumian is also a member of your family? Tangmao continued. How do you know? Ding Shan panicked instantly. You know, Ding Yumian has always been hiding very well. Moreover, although she is indeed a blood clan, magic has appeared on her body. They value this family member very much. After all, if she grows up, she may be able to give them a safe guarantee. However, he didn't understand how the young man in front of him knew this. I know a lot of things. I'll give you half an hour to catch the bastard who hurt them in front of me. Otherwise you can say goodbye to your family. Speaking of which, Tangmao actually had some guesses, but he didn't expect that Ding Yumian, this poor girl, was really a vampire. However, whether she was a vampire or not, Nidang must die. It was decided from the moment he murdered the girls' lives. If this person protected him, then it was not his fault. However, what Tangmao didn't expect was that the man nodded and left without saying a word. It seemed that he was going to catch the guy named Nidang in person. The two sisters Liu Ru and Liu Zion also understood the strength of the young man in front of them at this time. It seemed to be stronger than they imagined. The two sisters had sucked his blood, and a mark had been left deep in their hearts. Whether he was strong or weak, they could not refuse his orders in the future. This was also the change they noticed the moment they sucked blood. In less than 20 minutes, Ding Shan, who was as powerful as the commander, brought Nidong, who was a sub-commander, to Tang Mao and others who were waiting in an alley. It must be said that this bastard had murdered so many beautiful girls that he had such strength. Boom. The moment he arrived, Tang Mao sent down a thunderbolt without waiting for him to speak. Since he successfully depicted a superclass magic, his control of the thunder system has become more proficient. With just one thought, the thunderbolt fell from the sky. Although it was only a mid-level magic, its power was completely equivalent to a high-level one, and it was even several times stronger than the high-level magic of ordinary magicians. After a thunderbolt, this place was almost completely destroyed, and as for Nidong, there was nothing left. Even Bora was shocked when he saw it. You know, a mid-level magic directly killed a vampire called Immortal, and a vampire equivalent to a sub-commander. This is simply a fantasy. But this is the fact in front of us. Bora was thinking, if it was a superclass magic, would Tang Mao perform it? How terrifying it would be again. In fact, Tang Mao did not expect that his intermediate magic would suddenly become stronger. This could be the perfect transformation after the superclass, right? However, no matter what, being strong is a good thing. Just like in the volcano before, an amateur superclass magic directly broke all the woman's defenses and directly disabled her. If it is upgraded to the next level, it is estimated that his lightning magic should be equivalent to the power of the forbidden spell, right? After a moment of silence, Tang Mao looked at Ding Shan again and said, "Today, for the sake of that girl, I will only teach you a lesson. If this happens again in the future, no one will be spared." Ding Shan was not a fool, so he nodded in response, and then couldn't help asking, "Do you know you man? My name is Tang Mao." After reporting his name, Tang Mao left with the Liu Zion sisters and Bora. He had never expected to deal with Nidong and meet the twins Liu Zion and Liu Ru. However, he came to collect rent and manage the Magic City Blood Clan, so he naturally couldn't continue to waste time here. As for the Liu Ru sisters, they had a very eye-opening experience with Tang Mao tonight. To be honest, they had never thought that there were so many vampires living in the Anji. Moreover, these guys who were obviously unkillable and terrifying were so afraid of Tang Mao. Of course, what they didn't know was that they were not afraid of Tang Mao who didn't release magic, but the old monster Bora. However, Tang Mao didn't explain it. In one night, all the vampires in the Magic City were educated. Of course, there were also some vampires like Nidong who killed the girls because of excessive blood sucking. All of them were solved by him without leaving a single one. It was not until the early morning that Tang Mao took the two sisters back to his other apartment. As for what to do, the two sisters actually knew it in their hearts, but they didn't mean to refuse. After all, they were saved by Tang Mao, and deep in their hearts, they didn't mean to resist at all. So, everything happened naturally. As for Bora, Tang Mao didn't need to care about him. He was in a hurry to go back to Yuxu town to recuperate. After all, he was an old vampire. Even though he had received Tang Mao's gift, he would sleep in all day and night and would never wake up. Tang Mao actually brought the sisters here just to take a simple rest, but in the end, I don't know how it turned out that the two girls showed off in various ways. Not to mention, if it was Liu Zion or Liu Ru, although they were once top beauties among ordinary people. However, among magicians, they can only be regarded as top-notch, but not top-notch. However, after the two girls became vampires, they absorbed the blood of the devil, and their appearance and skin changed for the better. Not only that, looking at the two exactly the same women, if it weren't for the extremely accurate size of the hands, even Tang Mao couldn't tell who was who. It has to be said that the elder sister is still the elder sister, and the younger sister is still the younger sister. In addition to personality, this is the only difference. But whether it is elder sister Liu Zion or younger sister Liu Ru, Tang Mao likes them very much. Moreover, they would stay in this apartment for 6 or 7 days. There was no other way. The two sisters needed to become stronger. Even if Tang Mao was a little tired, he had to help them. He was not greedy for anything, nor was it a novelty, nor was it a strange thought. He was just thinking about the two sisters collecting rent for him in the future. Of course, when he hugged each of them, it was not clear whether he was thinking this way. After all, this scumbag has always been inconsistent. Chapter 463 Daily Life. Every day when I wake up and see someone beside me, I don't need to think, it must be Liuru. Although the two sisters are the same age, if she comes out a few seconds later, she is still the younger sister. Being a younger sister is naturally different from the older sister. She is born with the right to enjoy. Outside the living room, there is another busy figure in the kitchen. Since returning to the apartment, Tang Mao has also bought everything for the two sisters to be exactly the same, if nothing else, just for the novelty. Not to mention, he has been almost always standing up these days. Sure enough, 1 + 1 is sometimes not equal to 2. However, although he seems to be majestic and powerful on the surface, but in fact, he has already felt his limit. Even with the caring little sister Liu Zion serving him in various ways, he is really weak. Liu Zion, is the meal ready? I'm starving. Liu Zion, who was preparing lunch in the kitchen, turned back and said softly, it's not ready yet. There is milk in the morning. Do you want to drink some first? No, what's so good about that thing? Tang Mao curled his lips and refused. At this time, Liuru, who also came out in a daze, seemed to have heard the conversation between her sister and the scumbag. She curled her lips and said, if you don't drink, you will be hungry. What are you arguing about? After a few days of getting along, Liuru didn't treat Tang Mao as an elder at all. Although there was some effect in her heart, Tang Mao never oppressed her with this, which led to Liuru's retort when she saw the scumbag ordering her sister around. Seeing Liuru come out, after retorting to herself, she walked to the refrigerator and poured a cup of yogurt by herself. The girl, who looked weak and fragile, had a really bad temper. However, watching her drink yogurt, Tang Mao still felt a little dry in the mouth. He licked his lips and said, how about you come over and let me taste it? Liuru glanced at him and then said, you don't dislike drinking it, what are you trying to taste? How can you be so disobedient? I provide you with food, drink, and blood every day, and I can't even ask you to pass a glass of milk. Tang Mao complained dissatisfiedly. Liuru rolled her eyes at him and said with a little disdain, then my sister, and I push you every day, why don't you say it? Ahem. Liu Zion, who was cooking, blushed instantly after hearing these lewd words. Although she was no longer a little girl on the night she was rescued, she was more introverted and reserved by nature, and she couldn't help being shy. Tang Mao opened his mouth, and it was really hard to refute. After all, this tiger girl is just like this. Maybe it's because her gentle sister is still there, so her willful temper has not changed. Come to think of it, with such a sister pampering her, who wouldn't be a little princess? Ruru. Liu Zion shyly turned back and scolded. Liuru sat in Tang Mao's arms indifferently, pinching his chin and said, sister, this dead ghost can't be spoiled. Anyway, he saved us for selfish reasons. As she said that, Liuru clenched her little hand and suddenly said softly, am I right? Yes, I'm cheap. Okay, aunt. Be careful. This is not a joke. Although it feels good, Tang Mao is really afraid of being broken. Now she has to do whatever she says. Seeing that her sister is so bold, Liu Zion hurriedly turned back to cook at ease. As for what the couple behind her did, she ignored it directly. Don't be aunt, I'm going to be drained. If you keep doing this, I'll lose blood. Are you still a man? Where is the prestige you had a few days ago? Even if I'm a man, I can't stand you, a tiger woman, tossing like this. You scolded me? I didn't. Of course, it is impossible to be at ease. After all, the two of them kept moving their hands and their mouths were not idle. However, fortunately, this is not the first time, and she is slowly getting used to it. In order to make lunch not too mushy, Liu Zion took the lead in setting the time and put the prepared dishes in the pot. Sure enough, as expected, the war between the two did not last for half an hour and extended to here. In the end, Liu Zion, who went with the flow, had to join the dispute between the two. Tang Mao was very weak, but he could still squeeze out some nutrient solution after a rest. He did enough exercise before meals, and it was almost a clearing action when eating. However, after eating, he did not stay in the apartment. There was no way, he could not control himself at all, so in order not to die on his belly, he could only find an excuse to run away. Watching Tang Mao leave, Liu Zion was about to persuade Liu Ru, and then heard Liu Ru say, "Sister, don't always spoil him, just because this bad guy has so many strange ways to deal with us. Anyway, don't always owe him something, otherwise he will treat you as a maid in the future." Liu Zion thought to herself, isn't this the case now? Not to mention the obedience in her heart, she has completely surrendered. I know. But as a sister who loves her sister, she still nodded and said. When Liu Ru saw her like this, she knew that her sister didn't listen at all. In the Qingshan hunting house. "Hey, what's the wind today, that blew you here?" Len King said puzzledly, after seeing Tang Mao walk in. "Usually, this guy rarely comes when there is a big reward or something. But now old man Bao is not here, and Tang Mao probably doesn't need her, so she is confused. He doesn't come here unless there is something, and today he is just afraid of Liu Ru and her sister. But when he thinks of the other apartment, Mu Nigio and AI Tutu are probably also there, so he has nowhere to go, so he can only come to the Qingshan hunting house. After all, it's easy here. I miss my senior sister, so I came to see her specially. After a period of getting along, there is no need to pretend to be a gentleman in front of Len King. Anyway, she has been seen through. A hint of shyness flashed across Len King's beautiful eyes, and then she rolled her eyes at him and said, "Stop it, do you still have time to think about me?" Just from what she knew, there were already 4 or 5 of these scumbag women. Adding those she didn't know, would it be her turn? Do you really think she is a little girl? You really won't be able to get married like this. Tang Mao shrugged helplessly. There was no way to talk about this. Then he looked around and said, "Senior sister, where is Ling Ling? There is no reward, and she can stay anywhere except school." Len King seemed to have thought of something, and smiled again, but Ling Ling said that, if you have something to do in the future, don't think about looking for her, and she won't help you, even if you find her. Tang Mao said helplessly, "The trip to Kunlun Mountain is quite dangerous, so I didn't bring her. You should understand, right?" "Understand? Then why don't you explain it for me?" Tang Mao said again. "Why should I explain it for you? I think it's good for Ling Ling to stay away from you." Len King smiled and said. Tang Mao was speechless for a moment, paused and suddenly smiled with a hint of playfulness. "Senior sister, you are not afraid that I will become your brother-in-law, are you? Can you be a human being?" Len King was immediately defeated when he heard this, staring at Tang Mao and said, "She is still a child. Look at what you said. What does love have to do with age?" He naturally didn't care about what Len King said. After all, he had never done anything that had anything to do with people. "You shameless man, aren't you afraid that my grandfather will chase you and chop you?" Len King said with his eyes wide open. "If old man Bao could have such an excellent grandson-in-law like me, I'm afraid he would wake up happily in his dreams. Why would he chase me and chop me?" Tang Mao said very confidently. "Speaking of which, there are so many old men and women who want to be their own son-in-law. After all, he is the benefactor of the ancient capital, and he is the first in the national government. If we add the undisclosed matter of defending the sea area of Magic City and the matter of confronting Emperor Khufu on the North Plain, then I'm afraid that I'm the candidate for the national husband of the same generation." Seeing his narcissistic look, Len King really couldn't refute it. After all kinds of things show that Tang Mao is indeed a promising young man with a bright future. But even so, Len King sneered. "Yes, you have made a lot of contributions. But your philandering is no less than your contribution, right? If my grandfather knew, do you think he would still let you be his grandson-in-law and cheat his granddaughter?" Len King continued. "Senior sister, I think you just like me," Tang Mao continued. "If you want to get me, you don't have to do this. You have to squeeze your sister out. You hey. Len King, don't come over." Len King, who couldn't bear it anymore, found a baseball bat, and then there was a scene that was not suitable for children. Although Tang Mao could easily melt the baseball bat into pieces, Lenking was still dangerous when he hit him. If the baseball bat is broken, he will tell Tang Yu all about his ridiculous behavior. Well, he is not afraid of telling Tang Yu or not, but he does not want to waste a stick in vain. After all, he is also a thrifty person. The stick hits him again and again, but it really hurts. This woman is really cruel and merciless. After being beaten, although it is very sour, he has not changed much. At least this time, he perfectly protected his face. Bitch. Lenking couldn't help cursing Tang Mao, who was beaten by him, and still had the mind to look in the mirror. You are a violent woman. You can't get married in the future, and I don't want you. Wait for you to die alone. Before he finished speaking, seeing that Lenking was about to describe magic, how could Tang Mao dare to stay any longer? Without saying anything, he turned around and fled from the Kingshan hunting house. Seeing him leave, Lenking put away his magic power and then snorted coldly. Don't worry, I won't let you die alone. After all, my existence is to save older single women like you. Tang Mao did not leave. When Lenking turned around, he came back and added. When Lenking was about to draw the star map, he did not stop at all this time. Chapter 464 Ding Yumian comes to see you. After leaving Kingshan hunting house, Tang Mao came to the apartment next to Mingsu Academy. That is where Munijio and AI2 to live. The reason why he came here was that on the way back, he received a call from Munijio, which seemed to say that Ding Yumian, the school beauty of Mingsu, came to see him. Ever since Munijio was known to share a house with Tang Mao, she has fallen off the list of Mingsu school beauties. After all, she is no longer the same person she was before. It has been so long, and it is estimated that little Tang Mao has tolerated a lot. Therefore, it is also because of this that Ding Yumian, a cold and innocent girl without any scandals, has become the new school beauty. Of course, he didn't know much about these, but he was still quite surprised that Ding Yumian came to see him. Speaking of which, it seems that he didn't make things difficult for her family, right? At this time, why did she come to see him again? With doubts, Tang Mao returned to the apartment. As soon as he opened the door, he saw Ding Yumian, who usually didn't like to talk much, but he actually had a lot to talk about with Munijio. Tang Mao came in and said directly, "Depressed girl, what do you want to talk to me about?" Ding Yumian paused, obviously not expecting Tang Mao to be so direct. He hesitated for a moment, and Munijio next to him seemed to have seen that this reserved girl might not be able to tell her own things when she was here. So she stood up and said, "I have something to do and need to go out for a while. You guys talk first." Ding Yumian heard what Munijio said and looked at her with some gratitude. Although she didn't speak, her eyes were full of gratitude. When Munijio left, she didn't forget to give Tang Mao a warning look. It seemed to tell him that, even if he was a lowly person, he couldn't be here. Of course, Munijio might also be saying that, if he dared to do anything wrong, he would be castrated. This feeling of not being trusted is really uncomfortable. After all, he looks like the kind of person who can't walk when he sees a woman and rushes up. Tang Mao. Thank you. At this time, a soft voice suddenly came out. Hearing the voice, Tang Mao looked at Ding Yumian in front of him. Well, I have to say that, if she hadn't been a little weak recently, this small body really couldn't withstand a day of tossing. Ahem, it's nothing. I didn't want to destroy the Blood Clan. I just want to find the one who caused trouble. Tang Mao responded. I came to you today. I want you to do me a favor. Ding Yumian was silent for a while before speaking again. What? Tang Mao looked at her puzzled. You know, Ding Yumian doesn't seem to have encountered any trouble now, right? I want you to protect my people. Ding Yumian didn't hesitate and directly stated her purpose. She may not know about other people's affairs, and she doesn't have the heart to inquire, but she knows everything about Tang Mao. After all, she has always been paying attention to his movements, including the affairs of the ancient capital, including the first place in the school, and even the affairs of the coast of the magic city. She also has some understanding. Moreover, she also knows that Tang Mao has established a clan, and it is even a family with good prospects. So, just in time for this incident, she wanted to ask him for help. Speaking of which, Ding Yumian didn't know when this guy discovered that her identity was wrong. However, since he knew it early on, he never looked at her differently, nor did he tell anyone about it. This is enough. A person who can be trusted. What's the benefit for me to protect your people? Tang Mao licked his lips and looked at Ding Yumian with a hint of playfulness. You want me? Ding Yumian seemed to have been prepared for his appearance. There was no reaction, but he asked seriously. This is outrageous. Although this girl is really feeling good, but now these trembling legs ahem. I'm not that kind of person. Tang Mao denied it immediately. Are you sure this is true? Ding Yumian looked at him with some disbelief. After all, when the two met for the first time, this guy looked like I was greedy for your body. Now he came to the door, and he said no? Question mark? Thinking about it, Ding Yumian felt a little disappointed again, thinking that Tang Mao didn't want to protect her people. Okay, don't think about it. I just said that I'm not that kind of person, but I didn't say I won't help you. After watching Ding Yumian's expression change, Tang Mao couldn't help but agree. Really? Ding Yumian said with some joy. At the same time, she looked at him with some disbelief. She even suspected that Tang Mao's brain was squeezed by the door. But, at this moment, Tang Mao suddenly spoke again. Hearing this, Ding Yumian seemed to be ready to take off her own cloth. But, you have to join my clan. Tang Mao continued. Ding Yumian stopped moving his hands and said in a puzzled way, that's it? What's your attitude? Don't you want to? Although he also saw the dedication of this girl. However, in order for his little brother to save some serious nutrition, he still had to pretend. Now as long as she agreed, she couldn't run away in the future. Yes. Ding Yumian hurriedly bowed her head and agreed. How could she not be willing? But after thinking about her own situation, she hesitated and said, but, aren't you afraid that I will bring disaster to Yuxu town? What disaster? Tang Mao crossed his arms and said indifferently. My identity and my ability will be a disaster if they are discovered. Others may even use this to harm Yuxu town. She knew her own affairs. Since Tang Mao had promised to protect her people, that was enough. She was not a greedy person, and there was nothing wrong with staying well in Mingsu Academy. Silly girl, you think too much. Just for the Magic City, Hangzhou and his Finio City, the losses in the three places were extremely small because of him and his totem. That's fine. In the land of Bian, he fought against Emperor Hufu alone. Although Ding Yumian felt that Tang Mao was a little pretentious, he said so, no matter whether there was any water or not. He agreed first. If he really encountered danger in the future, he would stand up. He didn't know what Ding Yumian was thinking. However, Tang Mao looked at her and said, however, I still need to make some things clear to you. Entering Yuxu town does not mean that you can do whatever you want. You must also tell your clansmen that, if they violate my rules, there is only one way. Don't worry, we will definitely abide by the law. In addition, even if they need blood, they will stop at a certain amount and will not cause any harm to anyone. That Nidang is just an accident. Ding Yumian promised again, this kind of thing will never happen again in the future. Otherwise, I will clean up the mess myself without you having to do it. Well, very good. When the time comes, you can take them directly to Yuxu town. I will say hello to Muningsu and let her arrange a place for you to live. For Yuxu town, the most abundant thing is space. And now, it is the time when bodyguards and patrol mages are needed. Since there is a shortage of funds, having some blood clan thugs is also a good choice. Ding Yumian paused and said, can I stay in Mingsu Academy first? To be honest, Ding Yumian's strength could have graduated long ago. However, she didn't want to leave here, because here, she felt relaxed and comfortable. Tang Mao would not refuse, but thinking of some tragic things, he reminded her, it's not impossible, but you need to remember one thing. From now on, you are mine, and you need to report to me before doing anything. If you do anything without my permission, your family will no longer be protected by me. Although Ding Yumian felt that Tang Mao was a little too overbearing, she nodded and said that she would tell him everything. Chapter 465 Heading to Switzerland. Although Ding Yumian felt a little puzzled, her reason told her that she should agree to whatever Tang Mao said. Anyway, in the future, their whole family would need Tang Mao to protect them. In fact, how could she know that Tang Mao did so? Because she felt sorry for her tragic ending. Although the memory was not very clear, it was ridiculous to think that repelling the demons required a woman's self-destruction. Although it is true that magicians have this obligation, if this is still necessary with him here, then what is the need to continue practicing magic? His thunder of destruction is the strongest existence, no matter where on land, sea or air. He has no disadvantageous fighting place, so as long as the sea monsters dare to step into here, they will die. Of course, it is more important to find a few totems at the moment. Unfortunately, since the end of the national government, Jiang Shaoxu, the dead woman, has left a message to find totems because of her closed-door practice. Otherwise, with the information in her hand, it may not be difficult to find some totems. After all, her brother is really not an ordinary person. It's a pity that people who are too outstanding are short-lived without a halo. The two chatted for a while, and Ding Yumian left. The purpose of her coming here has been achieved, and it seems to be much simpler than she imagined. Tang Mao is also a gentleman, and he did not take advantage of others, which made her very happy. However, Ding Yumian didn't know that the scumbag just had ideas but no motivation. There are still many days to come, and she will always have the opportunity to slowly understand the dangers of life. When he returned, he received a call from Emofan, which seemed to say that Mengsu Academy was going to the Alps Academy for an exchange, and asked if he was interested. Tang Mao didn't believe this at all, so he asked the reason. Emofan knew that he was not easy to fool, so he had to tell him what happened on the Parthenon before. It seemed that the chaos that Tang Mao committed at the beginning was inexplicably piled up here. Then this time, after all the hardships, he caught Leng Ju, which happened to be the day when his merits and demerits could be offset. Although it was just a formality, he was still very panicked. When he asked Tang Mao why he hadn't received any news, Emofan looked like he was screwed. In fact, what Emofan didn't know was that he did receive a call from the Holy Inquisition. However, it was not to interrogate him. After all the destruction on the Parthenon was due to the rebellion of the great sage Merida and the priest Dulank. He would take action, and his first target was Seren, but the two parties stopped him, so there was nothing to do about killing. However, since the matter was resolved that time, Tang Mao left and returned to China. He really didn't give the Holy Inquisition any face. It's not that there are no people in their Holy Inquisition who can deal with him. It's just that he had a reason to take action. If they wanted to be tyrannical and unreasonable, they might not be able to take down the demonized him, so they could only lower their requirements and invite him to come and cooperate. To put it bluntly, they just wanted some face. Tang Mao finally agreed to him. There was no way, if he didn't give the Holy Inquisition face this time. If he is really targeted in the future, there will be more trouble. Moreover, this time he can also help the school by the way, and go to the Alpine Academy to have a good exchange. A man's paradise, not to mention him. Even Zhao Manan looks like he must go. Not only that, because of this trip to Switzerland, Liu Bei, who rushed to Yugsu town, also wanted to go with him. But in order for him to live well, Tang Mao still told him something. After Liu Bei learned about it, he was completely lost, but it still did not change his mind. He insisted on coming here. Finally, the four followed the two professors and students of the Pearl Academy and rushed here together. The Alpine Academy has always been a world-class magic student. Because they are attached to the Holy Court and the Court of Dissenters, they do not represent any country's position in Switzerland. All academies must participate in the World Academy competition as a country, and the Alpine Academy did not participate. They have never achieved good results in the World Academy competition, but this does not affect their international reputation and the mystery of the semi-closed environment in the Alps. Of course, the most important thing is that Alpine Academy is a girls' school. From the president, dean, professor, and tutor to the temporary workers who clean the academy and the couriers who deliver packages, they are all women. The Parthenon temple respects women because their female mages are often much better than men in the blessing system. The rulers of all generations also call them goddesses. But in fact, they are not completely exclusive of male healing mages and male blessing mages. As long as they perform well, the Parthenon temple will accept them. It's just that in terms of probability, women are indeed much better in healing and blessing. But this Alpine Academy is different. It is a group of feminists. All the students who come out of here have an indoctrinated contempt for men. Alpine Academy welcomes all universities and forces to come to exchange. Since they are protecting women's rights, they can't be closed in the mountains like a group of nuns. They often accept applications from famous universities to let the major world universities know their true strength. To put it bluntly, they have no chance in the battle between the state and the government, but this does not prevent them from liking to crush the top students of various schools. Moreover, the so-called women's rights require strength. If you don't have enough strength, what's the point of women's rights? You have to hold on to the wall obediently. However, when they got to the foot of the mountain, they were treated very rudely. Every male who went up the mountain also needed to wear a magic bracelet, which would track their location in the academy and prevent them from entering areas they shouldn't enter. This excessive requirement made several people feel uncomfortable. Is this simply restricting the freedom of life? However, when I think of the white and slender legs and the 7 tender and elastic skin in this academy, sure enough, when I think of this, what does this restriction count for? Several people followed the local customs and put on the magic bracelets prepared by the Alpine Academy. The professor who led the team looked at Zao Manan and others' abnormal behavior and couldn't help but curse in his heart. Sure enough, shameless. Chapter 466 Going Up the Mountain. After the episode, everyone went up the mountain, crossed Lake Geneva, and slowly approached the Alps. At the end of the lake, there was a clean and clear mountain river. The river meandered through countless mountains and ran through countless valleys, like a long silver silk thread from a goddess falling to the earth, making the Alps look beautiful and graceful. However, when they learned that women did not need to bring magic bracelets to enter here, they also understood how serious the feminist psychology in this place was. Damn, this is simply gender discrimination. It's even more crazy than the group of psychos in the Parthenon. Emo fan cursed. Tang Mao nodded in agreement, and then said, "It's just that there are many girls in this school, otherwise, I wouldn't even want to come. If you don't want to come in, no one will force you. And, put away your disgusting thoughts, otherwise we have the right to sentence you here." Outside the Shili Pavilion, a cold woman wearing a female monk's dress with off-white and platinum trim came. The clothes were a bit retro and looked a bit like those of monastery, but they were much more refined and luxurious than those simple and rough clothes in the monastery. The hood was completely silver, as if she didn't want to show her face completely. The cold woman who spoke had her hat very low. Even if she raised her head slightly, all that could be seen was her proud eyes in the shadow and her beautiful pointed chin. Hey, here comes someone who can speak Chinese? He didn't have a good tone for such overly proud people. I'm Chinese, but I didn't grow up in China, and I don't have a good impression of China. My teacher asked me to take you here. If you have any dissatisfaction with this place, I will help you take off the bracelet and you can leave on your own. The female monk said very unfriendly. Do you have this right? We were invited by the school. How come you are not Chinese, just because you didn't grow up in China? Tang Mao retorted. You, the female monk, really didn't have the right to snort and said, "Are you going to come in or not?" "Come in, since I'm here. How can I not come in to experience it?" Tang Mao looked at her with a slight smile on his face. Zao Manan and Mo Fan also laughed when they heard this. Their expressions were extremely obscene, as if they were thinking about something beautiful. The female monk obviously didn't react. She snorted, then turned around, straightened her slender waist, and slowly led the way in front. After walking for a while, she suddenly stopped and turned to look at Tang Mao, her eyes full of anger, and questioned, "What do you mean by that sentence just now?" "What do you mean?" Tang Mao asked instead of answering. "What you said just now. You mean, let me come in? Then I agreed to come in to experience it. What's wrong?" Tang Mao asked knowingly. You are shameless." The female monk didn't expect that this person really dared to say it, and her chest was trembling with anger. Moreover, there was a magical aura fluctuating around her. In the past, those who came to their Alpine Academy were all well behaved and cautious. There had never been such a frivolous and shameless person. "Well, you are not thinking about that, are you?" Tang Mao looked at her angrily and suddenly smiled and said, "You think too much. Our Chinese characters are indeed profound and extensive. You are not well educated, and it is easy to misinterpret my meaning. I'm not interested in all stuff, so don't think too much. You." After hearing Tang Mao's explanation, the female monk looked like she wanted to fight to the death. Just when the girl was about to take action, a woman wearing similar clothes, but without platinum edging, came over and said, "Senior sister, let's take them up the mountain quickly. The teacher has told us to do so." This woman is almost a head shorter than the cold female monk, but her body proportions are just right, especially in terms of curves, which are much more obvious than the tall female monk. Then she said in a tone that only the two of them could hear, "Once we enter the academy, we will have plenty of opportunities to deal with him." The cold female monk couldn't help but smile when she heard this. But what they didn't know was that even though the two women's voices were very low, Tang Mao's 8th level mental power still heard it clearly. Then the two women led them to other directions. Cheryl, Edith, I remember that you didn't go to the academy from this side last time. At this time, Professor Lee, who had come here last time, raised his own questions. "It's like this, Professor, when we meet distinguished guests, we will practice a baptism of alpine water. Do you see the waterfall in front?" Edith responded with a smile. Her smile looked so harmless, like a girl next door, but her eyes flashed with cunning light, and Tang Mao immediately understood that this was just a trick. However, when he thought of the charm in the waterfall, he was also quite willing to fall into the trap. So, he didn't say anything, and let Professor Lee and the two little bitches talk about it. Well, it was just a lie. Moreover, this bitch used provocation. Mo Fan next to him looked at Zhao Manan and said, "I feel this is a trap." "I agree." Zhao Manan nodded in agreement. Liu Bei behind the two paused and said, "It's rare that your eyes are not only on women." Tang Mao looked at the three people talking about it, but didn't say anything. Some things can't be shared, and even if he is willing, they may not believe it. After convincing Professor Lee, the two little bitches continued to walk in front. The rumbling sound of the waterfall had already come from the other side of the mountain. The sound of the waterfall was very clear. Originally, I thought that the Fulan waterfall was behind a mountain in front. Who knew that, after walking through several winding valleys and crossing several mountains, I still didn't see the true face of the Fulan waterfall, and the sound of the waterfall became more deafening, and it felt like everything around was shaking. Professor Lee was not completely fooled. He also had some understanding of this waterfall. The reason why he agreed was because of the reputation of the world's #1 university, so he had to accept it. Of course, to put it bluntly, it was because the person being tested was only Tang Mao, not him or his granddaughter, so he was fooled. He still couldn't put down his pretense, and Professor Lee felt that he should trust Tang Mao and believe that he would not be stopped by such a small waterfall. Chapter 467 I'm the best in the world. After a while, the Ferron waterfall owned by the Alpine Academy appeared before their eyes. It was not only majestic, but also incredibly wide. The white powerful water curtain fell into the huge abyss, and layers of mist rolled up. It felt like hundreds of white dragons were rolling there. If someone was in it, they would be crushed to pieces. Because of the special structure of the rock wall, the Ferron waterfall forms a kind of sound vibration, which will seriously interfere with the control of the magician. Therefore, stepping into the Ferron waterfall is not only a test of the magician's tolerance, but also a test of the magician's willpower. People with weak willpower may not even be able to cast a single magic in it. Looking at the waterfall in front of him, Professor Lee, who had studied the Ferron waterfall, suddenly spoke. He was naturally speaking to Tang Mao. After all, although he wanted to show off. However, hearing and seeing it with your own eyes are always different. This shocking waterfall looks like even a commander level demon can crush it, right? Zhao Manan, who was originally thinking about showing off, took a step back when he heard this. If he can't release magic, it's not worth risking his life just for these two little bitches. Of course, Zhao Manan, this damned bastard, seems to have no woman who can make him risk his life. Since you are the #1 in the world school competition, I don't think you dare to accept this test. Edith sneered and said provocatively, the #1 in the world school competition? Cheryl turned her face coldly and asked in shock. Why do you look so unbelieving? Do you really have to let your daddy press you to the ground and rub you to break your ridiculous daydreams? These two little bitches are trying to harm him, so there is no need for him to be a gentleman. Moreover, he has no gentlemanly manners at all. You. Cheryl was furious with Tang Mao, and Edith beside her also showed some hostility. Cheryl couldn't say anything for a long time. Finally, she took a deep breath, tried to calm herself down, and said, do you know what level of people our strongest students can compete with? The strongest student here may be defeated by me in a few seconds. For such a bragging that is effortless, Tang Mao must look like he is the best in the world. Moreover, among his peers, no one who can beat him has been born yet. A superclass lightning magic, even some older superclass mages may not be able to withstand it. So, what can't he be arrogant about? Remember this, I will tell the head of the dimension about this. Edith said, gritting his teeth. Bah, scum. Tang Mao was not panicked at all, and then looked at the two women with disgust and said, I thought you two had the ability to teach me a lesson, but it turns out that you are just pretending to be powerful. Since you say you are the best in the world, then well, this Ferren Falls. In recent years, only one student in our Alpine Academy has completely passed through the waterfall area. We call her the Dimension Head. If you have the ability, cross the Ferren Falls. In that case, the two of us will definitely apologize for our previous rudeness. Shirley knew that she was not an opponent, and immediately pointed at the rolling huge waterfall and said, your apology is too cheap, I don't need it. Tang Mao said, why, are you scared? Shirley suppressed her anger and said sarcastically, what a joke, a small waterfall can still be difficult for me. The incompetence of your academy does not mean that no one in the world can pass through here. Tang Mao looked like he didn't take this waterfall seriously at all, and he looked so rude, no matter how he looked at it. Okay, I hope you still have such courage later. After Shirley said this, she continued to lead the way. The two Mingzhu professors hurriedly tried to persuade him. Tang Mao said that he was fine. They could only hope that he was not pretending. As they got closer to the waterfall, the exaggerated water force became more and more soul-stirring. Not to mention that there was interference sound vibration under the waterfall. Even if there was no interference sound vibration, it was not something that the magician's fragile body could withstand. The impact of the waterfall continued. It was not that some defensive magic could not stop the falling water force, but that the continuous beating with the same power every second would soon break the magician's immediate defense. However, his physical defense was enhanced by the devil. It was far beyond the average magician, and his mental power was also strong. How could he be afraid of this small waterfall? He did not stop, stepped on the slightly swaying water bridge lock, and walked towards the most intense position of the waterfall. Professor Lee, are you sure it's as scary as you say? Zhao Manan said with some doubts as he watched Tang Mao step in easily. Professor Lee opened his mouth and looked at Tang Mao, who had already entered the waterfall. He didn't know what to say. Could this waterfall be useless? This is clearly Tang Mao BT. The two little bitches next to them were also a little surprised, but the real horror was not within their sight. The power of Ferren Waterfall can easily knock out a magician. Although it looks easy now, it does not mean that he has the ability to withstand the arduous test of their Alpine Academy. Watch the water, Edith reminded. Will he be okay? Someone from the Pearl Academy asked. Ferren Waterfall will always teach you that you are not strong enough. This is the most famous sentence engraved on the corridor of our academy. It is not a bad thing for him to suffer a little for being so arrogant. Cheryl said. Humph, who is arrogant? The result will show everything. Don't be so arrogant here. Just take us to the exit. Others don't know Tang Mao's strength, but Mo-fan knows it very well. 8th level of mental power, and a body strengthened by the devil. Can a small waterfall stop this? The two little bitches ignored Mo-fan. They kept their eyes on the water. Usually, some ordinary students of their Alpine Academy would be washed out by the water flow of the waterfall at this time. In their opinion, Tang Mao had not been washed out yet, which barely showed that he was stronger than some ordinary students? However, the two girls' faces turned ugly because Tang Mao had not come out for such a long time. It was very likely that Tangmao had entered the melt cave behind the waterfall. When they saw the group of people from the Pearl Academy, they signaled them to lead the way and wait at the exit. The two girls' expressions were even more unwilling and helpless. Chapter 468 came in on purpose. On the other side, Tangmao was falling under the gurgling waterfall, but he stepped into the cave without any obstacles. Of course, the vibration did not decrease because he entered the Ferron waterfall, but his body was covered with a layer of silver light, constantly repelling the water force that was rushing down. At this time, he felt a little strenuous when he stepped forward, as if his body weight had reached 100 times. But he had a strong mental power and the support of the demon system, so he was still unobstructed. The melting cave was also very spacious, and the temperature inside was higher than outside. Tangmao walked inside and found that the melting cave had obvious bends. If he guessed correctly, this should be another place for the cultivation of a little arrogant oof. After turning the corner, he saw that the melting cave was obviously decorated. There was a large silver plush carpet on the ground, and crystal lamps that could glow by themselves were hung on both sides. Stepping on the silver plush carpet, although this was a good place for cultivation, Tangmao did not intend to cultivate here. Instead, he continued to walk inside. As soon as he stepped inside, he saw a delicate and perfect jade crystal woman statue sitting there in the center of the silver velvet carpet. Her long flaxen curly hair was scattered in the silver velvet. Although it was as dense and thick as silk, it still couldn't cover her buttocks that looked particularly round because of her sitting posture. Not bad, good stuff. This wave is worth it. Looking at the flawless, holy and charming jade woman in front of him, who was like a statue, Tangmao admired in his heart. At this moment, the jade woman suddenly let out a soft moan sound, followed by a weak breath. Tangmao crossed his arms and stood in place, staring at the statue with his back to him. But at this moment, the statue slowly turned around, and the body without any cloth was completely exposed to Tangmao's eyes, which made Tangmao's whole body boil. Are statues so realistic these days? Tangmao said with a hint of playfulness. The blue gemstone eyes of the statue woman were wide open, and the beautiful three-dimensional face was full of astonishment. Gradually, the astonishment turned into shame and anger. She swept her hands like scissors, split a corner of the silver velvet carpet, and quickly wrapped her body with it like a bath towel. She stood up, and her eyes changed from shyness and anger to cold and sharp. Give me a reason not to kill you. The woman was murderous, and the air around her was about to condense, but Tangmao seemed to be fine, and looked like a pity. I can be responsible for you. As a warm man, since everything has been reflected in his mind, he must be responsible. Then you can die. The woman felt like she was fooled. The eyes flashed with a sapphire blue light, and a powerful crushing thought came with the force of lightning. Hey, I said I'm responsible. What are you doing, crazy woman? Tangmao casually wiped out her attack with a silver light. Today, either you die or I die. The woman said this coldly. It can be seen that she is really very angry. However, think about it. But does Tangmao care? If he really cares, can he deliberately come here? Then, the woman took a step forward, and this step made her disappear directly into the air, and the blue crystals fell on the silver plush carpet. However, what's the use of this little trick in front of him? Tangmao grabbed the woman who wanted to attack him with a backhand, or a pinch. The strong gravity of space directly suppressed her body, and even made her unable to draw a star track in a short time. That's it. I wanted to taunt her a few times, and give her a warning. But who would have thought that the blanket was so powerful? Tangmao naturally wouldn't bully people like this, so he let go. The woman also realized that something was wrong, and hurriedly stepped back and reorganized herself, and then angrily said, "Who let you in? Shameless. I didn't do anything special. Why do you allow you to show yourself but not me? If you want to impress a woman, the best way is to not give in. Some people can love out of hatred, and of course some people will only hate twice as much. However, with his strength, it is usually the former. Just like the arrogant Mochizuki Chiksen, when they first met, how much did she hate him? But now, isn't it that she can lean on the wall, if asked to lean on the wall, and can taste the Zyro, if asked to taste the Zyro? Go to hell." At this time, the woman also bombarded again. Not only is her space magic outstanding, but her sound magic is also not bad. Every note she spits out contains explosive killing power. However, these attacks are nothing to Tang Mao. He easily resolved them one by one. Sound magic is indeed impossible to defend, but the space magic has reached a certain level, and with the absolutely powerful mental power, this sound magic is naturally nothing to be afraid of. The woman looked at her attacks, and after being easily resolved one by one, she was also a little shocked. She really didn't expect that this shameless man in front of her actually had such a strong mental power. Of course, this does not mean that she has no way to deal with it. You know, she hasn't killed him yet. However, she had to admit that Tang Mao's contempt and damnable look really made her furious. Today, no one can stop me. I want your life. As soon as she finished speaking, she began to draw the constellations. The speed was very fast, but while she was drawing, Tang Mao had already turned around and left. Are you kidding? This cave may not be able to withstand the high-level magic bombardment. He didn't want to lose his life like this stupid woman. The Cheyenne River poured down and poured into the wide deep pool. Under the sunlight, the flying mist formed a rainbow across the middle of the waterfall. On the lock bridge, Professor Lee, Zhao Manan and others had some doubts and worries on their faces. It stands to reason that Tang Mao should not only have entered the melting cave at this time, but should have come out of the melting cave. There was no movement for so long. Did something unexpected happen? It was only when Mo Fan confirmed that he was fine that they felt a little relieved. Edith and Cheryl, the two little bitches, were extremely happy. In their opinion, Tang Mao, the dog, should be in trouble now. Probably being abused. They really couldn't do anything to Tang Mao, but it wasn't like there weren't strong people in their academy. Besides, they encouraged Tang Mao to come in. Didn't they want to teach him a lesson through her? Bang. Just when the two little bitches were feeling proud, there was a loud noise, and the water curtain at the waterfall window suddenly exploded, and the water splashed all over the sky, splashing hundreds of meters away. Professor Lee, Cheryl and others were standing 70 or 80 meters away from the waterfall curtain, very close to the location where the water curtain exploded. Hundreds of tons of water blasted into the sky and then fell down, like a deep sea monster opening its mouth to devour the people on the water. Zhao Manan and Mubei reacted quickly. One depicted the constellations to form a water curtain, and the other condensed a thick layer of ice below, wrapping up everyone here. Hua the waterfall water roared down, and the entire water surface also rolled up violent waves. The iron chain bridge shook, and almost shook them all into the water. After resisting the impact of the waves, Zhao Manan raised his head and looked at the white waterfall wall. He saw a big hole on the waterfall wall. All the water would automatically disperse when flowing through the hole. In the hole, a woman with long curly hair wrapped in a silver velvet scarf floated out. White water splashed messily outside her area of 10 meters. This woman with an extraordinary aura made the waterfall split apart. Her restless and powerful aura made the entire waterfall river and the deep pool explode with streams of water. Shameless, don't run. After the flax curly haired woman rushed out, she locked onto Tang Mao directly. But Tang Mao didn't seem to be ready to run. With her arms around her chest, she floated there with ease, as if she was not afraid of her at all. Then some streams of water from the waterfall rushed straight to Tang Mao. Ice for thousands of miles. Inside, he didn't do anything, just worried that this small cave would collapse. But outside, he had no reason to continue to indulge her bad habits. The waterfall dragon flew over, but when it was about to approach Tang Mao, it suddenly turned into an ice sculpture. Then, Tang Mao suddenly punched it with a silver light and smashed it to pieces. Just when Zhao Manan and others were confused. It's Edie, head of the dimension. Cheryl and Edith exclaimed in surprise at the same time. It looked as if they didn't know Edie was inside. She is the strongest student in your Alpine Academy. Professor Lee asked with some surprise. Yes, it must be this shameless guy who offended Edie. Just let him suffer a little. Cheryl was happy instead. Who will suffer? It's still uncertain. Little bitch, you still have the mind to gloat here. You should think about what you will face in the future. None of the people present were stupid. The strongest student in their school was here. Wouldn't they know? And they provoked Tang Mao to enter. Isn't this killing with a borrowed knife? Of course, one thing that shocked them was that Tang Mao was also a scumbag, and he was provoked by the other party after entering HMPH, the strength of the dimensional leader. In fact, this shameless guy can resist. Although Cheryl also regretted bringing him in, because she might have a hard time in the future. However, at the moment, she was still thinking about how to teach Tang Mao a lesson. After shattering Hide's waves, Tang Mao still looked very relaxed. Requiem. Seeing this, Hide raised her head, revealing her fair and slender neck, opened her red mouth, and sang to the blue sky. The strange notes flew into the sky, forming dark harp strings above Tang Mao's head, covering a large area. Space Rift. To deal with the bombing of the sound system, this dimensional magic was naturally used to deal with it. Bang bang bang. Although her bombing continued, the bombing power in Tang Mao's cracks did not cause any harm to Tang Mao. Sky Flame Funeral Thousand Petal Flame Flower. 4 kinds of soul fire suddenly emerged, and Tang Mao's momentum instantly changed dramatically. Yanji was in the process of sleeping and upgrading, but her 3 kinds of soul fire were all under his control. After the 4 kinds of flames condensed together, they could completely be equivalent to the fire element Heavenly Seed. The 4 kinds of soul fires have their own unique features, and there is no repetition, but with Yanji's long-term mastery, coupled with Tang Mao's powerful control, the fusion of them not only did not backfire, but the power of the magic was increased by who knows how many times. After completing the 3rd level high-level magic of the fire element, the flames of the sky turned into a bunch of fireworks flowers, and clusters of them burned into a gorgeous sea of fireworks in the sky, followed by a blanket of dense and heavy rain of meteors. Thousands of fire petals fell down, comparable to the momentum of a meteor shower, frantically bombarding the place where Hide was. The waterfall water she had just mobilized evaporated directly. Each petal bloomed a lotus of destruction on the ground, and in the air. The flame lotuses overlapped, turning the green ground into a pitted, scorched earth in an instant. Seeing this, Hide immediately used her mind to form 6 spatial walls to protect herself in the spatial grid, but Tang Mao's explosive flames at this time could not be resisted by such defensive magic and offensive magic tools. Chaos Vortex. Hide immediately changed her method and created a dimensional vortex above her. This dimensional vortex can absorb all energy and matter. When the fierce flame petals fell, they also escaped into the chaos vortex and disappeared without a trace. Fierce Fist. 9 Palaces. Hellfire. Tang Mao has never been afraid of the same level of chaos system, because his fire system specifically restrains the chaos system. Hide saw the flames in Tang Mao's hand condense, but he did not attack. Slightly stunned. But the next moment, she only felt the chaos vortex burst. Boom. Then, a pillar of fire suddenly exploded in the vortex. Hide also reacted quickly. At the moment the flame exploded, she moved away from here in an instant. Tang Mao understood her talent, so there was nothing to be surprised about. Tang Mao was not surprised, but Hide was already confused. The chaos vortex that could devour all the magic of destruction was actually exploded? Question mark? She couldn't imagine that this was actually true? Question mark? Not to mention her, even the 2 little hooves below who had just been arrogant were dumbfounded at this moment. Are you stupid little hoof? Do you really think that you can fight with me with your strength? After the words fell, the soul fire behind Tang Mao also burned more fiercely. The 4 color flames of cyan, brown, red, and scarlet are not only spectacular and beautiful, but also full of burning and hot feelings. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 469 Crushing. Hide was already very blessed. Even in the whole world, there were not many people who could have such strength as her. However, she did not expect that Tang Mao in front of her was even more terrifying. This was the first time she encountered such a situation. The attack that was dissolved by the chaos vortex could actually erupt a second time. Even she could not stop it. However, looking at the 4-color soul fire behind Tang Mao, she felt that all this was not strange. After all, it was the destructive fire magic fused from the 4 soul fires. Exclamation mark. What Edie could not accept the most was why Tang Mao could have 4 soul fires alone. Question mark. What Edie did not know was that this was only the power generated by borrowing fire. If she really merged with Yanji, she would not be so simple to be blasted back. Moreover, Tang Mao's firepower now is equivalent to the power of Yanji when she merged with the national government competition. After all, the 2 newly acquired soul fires, no matter which one, are the best among the soul species. They do not have any artificial additions, they are completely natural. Still fighting, little hoof. Tang Mao looked so relaxed that the 2 little bitches around Zhao Manan and the others were completely dumbfounded. Although there was no blow on their faces, they felt a burning sensation. Although Hedi was shocked by Tang Mao's destructive power, it did not mean that she was afraid. She jumped up and used spatial telekinesis again, turning all the nearby gravel and waterfall water into means of attack, and attacked Tang Mao again. Sky flame. Sound disturbance. When Tang Mao was describing the constellation, she also directly interrupted. Yes, Hedi did have the capital to be proud. Although the chaos system failed to become the trump card to reverse the situation, she still had the natural talent of doing 3 things at once. When Tang Mao was describing the constellation, she directly interfered so that he could not complete the connection of the constellation. Tang Mao's speed of describing the constellation was indeed very fast, but it also took a few seconds, and in just 1 or 2 seconds, he could not complete the description. However, despite this, he did not use the magic weapon of concentration. If you can't use higher level magic, then don't use it. The intermediate magic that I created with a thought is something that the opponent can't interrupt at all, and the damage of the intermediate magic is no different from that of the high level magic. Fiery Fist, 9 dragons. The 6th level intermediate fire magic is made of 49 stars strengthened by the commander. These 49 stars strengthened by the commander level spirits were naturally obtained from the battle in Leon. After being matched with Yanji, the power of the fire system is not much inferior to the thunder system. Boom. A circle of fire appeared, and Hide's attack was instantly dissolved. The attack was too fast. Even if there was interference, it was after the opponent's magic was used. It can be said that this way it has almost no effect. Teleport. The blue crystal shattered into powder, and Hide's whole person was like a mirror image of time and space, disappearing from the spot in an instant. The next second, Hide appeared 400 meters away, standing gracefully at the white waterfall curtain. Get out of here. Get out of here. Zhao Manan and Mo Fan saw how far Hide was, and hurriedly reminded everyone to leave. They were only 40 to 50 meters away from Hide, and no more than 600 meters away from Tang Mao. So what would happen next, they knew too well. The 2 old professors and students were confused, and the 2 little bitches from the Alpine Academy also didn't understand what was happening. Water sky curtain. Zhao Manan knew that there was no chance of running away, so he quickly drew a water constellation. Boom, boom, boom. Before the old professor could speak, the ground suddenly began to jump. It seemed like something wanted to break out of its shell. Boom roar. At this moment, 9 fire dragons suddenly appeared on the ground nearby, bursting out from below in one breath. Just like the 3rd level intermediate skill, the Fiery Fist 9 palaces, it was a 9 square grid. However, unlike the Fiery Fist 9 palaces, the range of the Fiery Fist 9 dragons is extremely huge, and what erupts are flame dragons covered with flames, but not pillars of fire. This is not just more beautiful and more spectacular. The power has been greatly doubled. Even the power of the Sky Flame Funeral is probably not as good as it. The flaming shockwave quickly approached Hide's position. Hide's blue pupils were brilliant, and her whole body was shrouded in the sapphire blue luster. Swish, swish. The mind was used everywhere, and the waterfall, which was only 50 meters behind her, moved again. The magnificent white waterfall curtain turned into a pair of protective hands, slowly wrapping Hide here. Just when the flaming shockwave rolled over, the twisting white waterfall curtain had blocked Hide behind, and the flaming collided with the waterfall, and more white gas was rolling and surging. Fortunately, it was only a mid-level magic. If it was high-level magic, Hide was sure that she would have been burned. Of course, it could be said that his intermediate level magic already had the power of high level magic. If it was high level magic, it would be unimaginable! Exclamation mark. Hida's figure slowly emerged from the messy white water curtains. Her skin was still as pure as snow, which was equivalent to the damage of high level magic bombardment. She could still bear it. After blocking Tang Mao's bombardment, Hida used sound magic to disturb him, while using her mind to condense the attack, and rushed towards Tang Mao. When the mental power reaches a certain level, the attack power of the space system is also extremely terrifying. However, although Hida is very strong and has a high mental power, it is nothing to him. After all, he is one level higher than Hida's mental realm. Therefore, her attack is almost useless to Tang Mao. Hida's most proud mental power suddenly lost its effect. Although she can use 3 things at the same time, her strongest means were easily resolved, and the chaotic vortex was also directly blasted. As for the sound system, Tang Mao was thinking of the star map, and there was no possibility of interruption. Was she defeated from the beginning? The reason why Tang Mao did not take action in the cave was that she did not want to be crushed in it, right? Hida could be said to have completely met her match. Oh, it could also be said that he, who could fight with some superclass mentors without being defeated, was completely crushed. Okay, the two of you stop fighting. Just when Hida was wondering, a middle-aged woman in a golden robe suddenly appeared above the waterfall and spoke. Chapter 470 Hida. Hearing this, Tang Mao looked up at the top of the waterfall and saw a charming woman floating down from the top of the waterfall. Behind her was a pair of pure white feather wings. The surging waterfall kept rolling up water mist and water vapor, but it was automatically bounced away when she was less than half a meter away. She glided into the waterfall river and landed lightly on a rock protruding from the water surface, and also landed between Tang Mao and Hida. She first glanced at Tang Mao with a gentle smile on her face, but her crow's feet were particularly obvious. Although you may have just broken through not long ago, you are a superclass mage after all. Hida is strong, but she is only high level. Such a battle is not fair. The woman in the golden robe who appeared said softly. Then you have been here for so long, why don't you help? Tang Mao said provocatively with a slight smile on his face. This woman's cultivation is indeed stronger than his, but, so what? It will be more fun to fight with people who are higher than your realm. Teacher Jailan, why would such a rude and unmannered person come to our Alpine Academy? Hida asked. We invited them. Mingsu Academy has made a great success in the World Academy competition. We hope to learn something from the ancient Eastern country. In return, we will also invite their mentors and students to come and exchange ideas. They are our guests. Hida, don't embarrass them. Jailan didn't care about Tang Mao's provocation at all, but spoke in a soothing way. Hida looked aggrieved. Is she making things difficult for her? Question mark. It's obvious that she has suffered a lot of grievances, okay? Question mark. Unfortunately, Jailan didn't give Hida a chance to complain. Aren't you going to make the decision for your students? There's no point in fighting her. Tang Mao continued, not having any fun at all, but being provoked to fight. Although he knew that he was a little embarrassed, he hadn't met anyone he could fight since he reached the super level. People of the same age don't have much role to play, so now that he meets someone who is not much older than him and whose strength is not bad, he really wants to fight. Teacher, please teach him a lesson. This kind of person is too ignorant. Hida said angrily, looking at the provocative Tang Mao. Hida. Jailan gestured to her and then said to Tang Mao, I think the previous incident was also a misunderstanding, and you don't have any hostility. In this case, why should I stand up for her? This is the first time in Hida's life that she is so angry. But even if she is angry or unhappy, what can she do? Question mark. She can't beat him, but the teacher doesn't help. Moreover, it seems that teacher Jailan treats the other party as a distinguished guest. Cheryl and Edith are not arrogant at this time. Tang Mao is a superclass mage. They are obviously the same age, but the gap is amazing. They originally expected Hida to crush them and let them know that they need to respect when they come to the Alpine Academy. But now it seems that they really think too much. This woman obviously won't do it, so Tang Mao has to give up. He waved his hand and said, "Forget about the fight. I was wrong before." After entering the cave, a white body came into view. HMM. What a bummer. I didn't even let you look at it for a while. TSK. Since the other party had no intention of competing, he naturally wouldn't continue to talk. Anyway, he certainly won't lose. When Hidi heard Tang Mao talking about what happened just now, she was so angry that she wanted to fight. However, not to mention that she was not an opponent. Just because Teacher Jia-lan was here, she didn't dare to use force at will. She could only stare at Tang Mao with her cold murderous eyes. It seemed that she was killing with a look that did not cause any harm, giving Tang Mao the most terrifying harm. Teacher Jia-lan selectively ignored what Tang Mao said. She seemed to understand that guests are guests. Of course, it was mainly because Tang Mao from Huaximingsu Academy won the biggest victory of the World Academy. Because of this, he received such respect. Otherwise, this kind of preferential treatment? How could they deserve it? By the way, I have prepared delicious food. I think this will change your opinion of our Alpine Academy. Teacher Jia-lan then made a gesture of invitation. Tang Mao was not very interested in the word delicious food, but the few people behind him were very much looking forward to it. There was no way. This place was mainly vegetarian. Although eating more vegetables is good for the body, Tang Mao was really wondering, how did these women eat so much without getting the proper nutrition from meat? The Alps do have a lot of wild game, but on the door of the cafeteria it was written that the little lives of the entire Alps are the most lovely and wonderful elves. Meeting them brings good luck, and hurting them will bring bad luck. I really don't know how students grow up eating these every day. Tang Mao said, and glanced at Hidi. What he wanted to express was almost self-evident. Hidi's face suddenly flushed with anger, and the silver plates on the table began to shake slightly, making some collision sounds. Tang Mao ignored Hidi directly. After all, he would be here for a while, so he had plenty of time to train her. Now the issue was meat. He continued, by the way, Teacher Jia-lan, you guys are not going to eat vegetarian food when other people from the campus come, and you will eat meat after we leave, right? Teacher Jia-lan was also a typical old fox. No matter how you ridiculed her, she would always use a gentle and ordinary tone, and some of her words made people feel that they were not angry, like a fist hitting cotton. However, she was really speechless about Tang Mao. However, she could only continue to speak. No, we at Alpine Academy have never had any meat. I hope you can adapt to the local customs. Tang Mao shrugged, and then said, well, it's not too difficult to accept with beautiful legs, elastic buttocks, etc. Hidi, who was originally prepared to tolerate, was provoked and angry again. She even wanted to fight Tang Mao to death. This man is really too much. Hidi, pay attention to control your emotions. The noisy and roaring waterfall cannot affect your mind. Don't let some words make you unable to keep calm. I require you to accompany me throughout this 1-month magic academic exchange, and you cannot use any offensive magic without my permission. At this time, Teacher Jia-lan suddenly frowned, and said to Hidi very seriously, Jia-lan has a rule that you must never use any magic when eating, and you must maintain due respect for food. This is a treasure given to them by nature, and it is not allowed to be profaned. Hidi also knew clearly that she just didn't control it at all. In fact, think about it. Tang Mao's mouth is like a machine gun, and the power of the gunfire is not weaker than Fan. Yes, Teacher Jia-lan. Hidi knew that she had violated Teacher Jia-lan's taboo, so she quickly restrained her emotions and admitted her mistake. Teacher Jia-lan can actually understand Hidi, but then again, Tang Mao's mouth cannon, although annoying, is also a good opportunity for practice. After all, her magic is all in the dimension. If she can't concentrate, it's not a good thing for her. Then Teacher Jia-lan also said that the bad-mouthed Tang Mao was a helper for her practice, and how good he was to her. Hearing this, even he himself felt a little helpless. Although Hidi was still angry about the previous incident, after listening to what Teacher Jia-lan said, she felt that it was true. The man in front of her who was most likely to provoke her anger would also be someone who could help her practice. Thinking of this, forget it. Hidi just looked at Tang Mao's eyes and tasted it carefully and immediately imagined what happened just now. What kind of feeling? It's just like being *ED. However, even though she was itching with hatred in her heart, this time, Hidi didn't mean to get angry. She lowered her head and didn't look at Tangmao and didn't say another word, just maintaining her elegance and enjoying the vegetable soup there. He also saw Hida's reaction. To be honest, this little girl was easily defeated. Even though she was pretending to be not angry anymore, she would still go berserk if he provoked her casually. However, Tangmao felt that he couldn't continue to bully such a beautiful girl. After all, if he could make her change her ways in a month, he would probably be able to leave some things for his descendants. Open bracket close bracket. Chapter 471 Patrol Female Mage. At night, the female students here all go to bed very early. No matter how brightly lit the entire academy full of ancient European atmosphere is, there is not a single female student dressed in sexy clothes on the corridors, in the classrooms, or in the fallen leaves. Alps does not recruit all Swiss students. In fact, there are not many Swiss students. They recruit students from all over the country. They don't care about their nationality or bloodline. As long as they enter the Alps Academy, they are considered a large group, taking the academy as their country and home, and the Alps as their faith and God. At this time, on the mountain of the Alps Academy, Tangmao and the other four were roasting rabbit meat. Well, it's the first time that rabbit smells so good. Nubei, this is the first time I admire you for bringing your own seasoning. Zhao Manan took out a large bottle of Sprite that he bought before going up the mountain, and then took out a few cups he had taken from the academy, and poured a cup for each person. There is no way. This bird place not only has no meat, but also no wine. Although there may be some, they are outsiders who just can't experience it. I often walk outside, so I put these things under my bag. I thought I wouldn't need them. Nubei explained. It's okay, it's ready. Even without seasoning, the meat is much better than the bland soup of the Alpine Academy. Tangmao curled his lips. To be honest, if it weren't for the fact that the girls here are also excellent, he would never come to this broken place. I don't know why they all think they are proud and satisfied as if they are living in a holy place in heaven. I feel that it's no different from being in prison. Mo Fan also complained. If you stay here for a month, you will become stupid. By the way, those two saint bitches need to be cleaned up. They really think we are easy to bully. Zhao Manan said. After being slapped in the face by Boss Tang, those two bitches didn't cause any more trouble. Mo Fan muttered, then looked at Tangmao and said, but how did you get into a fight with that perverted woman? Three things at once. All three of them are dimensional magic. The most important thing is that, although this woman seems to be a weakling in front of Tangmao, they are all very clear that, if she fights with them, she will be easily crushed, right? When I entered the cave, she was not wearing any clothes, so I just had a good look at her, Tangmao said casually. Fuck. Zhao Manan and Mo Fan were immediately unhappy when they heard this. Hidi is beautiful, with a high nose bridge, sapphire blue eyes, plump and round lips, and the flax-colored long curly hair. That is very natural. It is not an exaggeration to say that she is an angel beauty. When I think of the two of them, I can't help but drool. Nubei looked at the two people like this, and always felt very embarrassed. However, he couldn't say anything, otherwise, he would be targeted again. He changed the subject and said, let's talk about these two women, Cheryl and Edith. They are so arrogant. Yes, Cheryl and Edith, these two scheming bitches, we must make them kneel down and sing conquer. Look at what they made for us. What's the difference with pig food? Only Shi Junsheng is there, smiling like a grandson, and saying it's delicious. I don't understand. If Shi Junsheng is a dog, others have done this to us, but he still licks the dog in various ways. It's disgusting to me. Zhao Manan nodded in agreement. Do whatever you want, as long as no one dies. Tangmao naturally had no objection to them being unhappy with the two little bitches. Don't worry. Although those two little bitches are a little ignorant, we won't be cruel to them. Zhao Manan looked like he was very kind to women, and then looked at Nubei and said, Nubei, do you have any drugs? Nubei was unhappy for a while, and then glared at him and said, I'm not you. How can I carry that kind of stuff with me? The three of them were discussing the drugs, while Tangmao was concentrating on enjoying the food. Ding ding ding. Ding ding ding. Just when he was eating happily, suddenly, a sound like a flute, but more piercing than a flute echoed over the snowy mountain. Tang Mao, Fan, Zao Manayan, and Mu Bei were chewing rabbit meat happily. But suddenly they found that more than a dozen pairs of milky white wings in the night sky gradually surrounded the snowy mountain. Soon, a group of female mages in white patrol uniforms flew in front of the four people. One of the female patrol mages with eyebrows came over, took a look at the fat rabbit that was roasted to a crisp inside and tender outside, and frowned. We received a report that someone is killing small creatures in the snowy mountains. I think when we allowed you to enter here, someone told you that you were not allowed to kill any small creatures in the Alps. The four of you come with us, and we will ask the teacher in charge of the punishment department to deal with you. The patrolling female mage said without mercy when she saw the four people. Fuck, you don't give us meat. Don't you allow us to cook our own food. Zao Manan pointed at the leading female mage angrily. Put your hand back, otherwise I will regard you as a rebel, and don't blame us for being rude then. The patrolling female mage said coldly. What did you say? Zao Manan was furious. The people here were really arrogant. Put your hand back, otherwise I will regard you as a rebel, and don't blame us for being rude then. The patrolling female mage said coldly. What can you do if I'm rude? Do you want to compete? Tang Mao said in a calm voice, while enjoying the food in his mouth. At the same time, lightning flashes continued to emerge around him. Crackle. Just the emergence of lightning threads made the female mages floating in the air feel the breath of destruction. To be honest, he knew that the so-called rules of this school were only for people from other schools like them. But when facing a serious and powerful force, there can still be some vulgar things here. So, since the other party is looking down on them, why should he be tolerant? He doesn't even care about the holy court, so how can he care about such a nunnery? You dare to resist? The leading patrol female mage said in disbelief. This is the first time I have encountered such a person in the Alpine Academy. Not only did he dare to harm the creatures on the mountain regardless of their warnings, but he even dared to provoke them. The patrol mage is responsible for safety. However, in this place, where thunder is getting denser and denser, they all became alert. But it was the first time they encountered such a terrifying thunder power. No matter who it was, they were a little trembling. Seeing that Tang Mao was about to take action, Fan, Zao Manayan, and Mu Bei were naturally ready for battle. Chapter 472 Concubine Bran. Boom boom. At this moment, thunder suddenly sounded, and the female mages who were just floating in the air were knocked to the ground one by one. Fortunately, Tang Mao did not mean to kill them, but just made them feel paralyzed. And the leader was naturally powerful. Of course, she didn't know that Tang Mao did not make a move, and these lightning threads were just the thunder of the domain. You dare to attack the patrolling mages, you will pay the price for this. The female mage said, while using light magic to resist the lightning threads that kept falling. Oh. Tang Mao looked at the leading female mage who blocked his thunder, and felt a little surprised. You know, with his current strength, even if it was just the thunder of the domain, the power was not something that anyone could resist. After all, his domain is now the Cheyenne Hang domain. Thunder Seal Rage Strike. Then, he threw a primary magic at random, and on the light shield, the crackling lightning continued to gather on his light shield. Although it was just an elementary magic, after it was touched, it attracted countless thunderbolts from the field. Boom. Boom. The bombardment of thunder quickly caused cracks in her light shield. Stop. Just when the patrolling female mage was about to collapse, a halo suddenly appeared in front of her. Then, an angel beauty of the same mage as Hedi appeared, and she was full of charm, but unfortunately she exuded the severity and coldness of the extermination nun. She was wearing a short linen shirt, and the rest of her body was wrapped tightly with various fabrics. Her neck was covered with the collar of the linen shirt, she wore gloves and high boots, and even her face was covered with a layer of gauze. Her beautiful eyes projected an inhuman and cold light. Except for her forehead, there was no skin on her body. This woman was naturally a great genius concubine. After seeing the people in front of her, the patrolling female mage hurriedly said, Teacher Branki, not only did they not follow the rules, but they also attacked us. Branki heard this and was full of disgust towards Tang Mao and others. We rarely see guests like you who don't care about our rules at all. It's the first time we have met people like you who attack our patrolling mages. Your school entertains guests with plain soup. Is it the same for everyone? Or is it the same for people like us in the school? Don't you know it yourself? Tang Mao said with a bad face. I thought you would have the intention to repent, but I didn't expect you to still make excuses for your mistakes. Branki didn't expect Tang Mao to say this. Is this an excuse? Tang Mao finished the last bite of meat and then said in a cold voice, you Alpine Academy just think that our school from China is not worthy of respect. Since you don't get the respect that a distinguished guest deserves, what use do your rules have to me? You. Branki was silent for a while and then said, rules are made to be enforced, whether they come from other schools or our own schools. If there is a forbidden spell master behind us, can you still have such an attitude? Tang Mao then said in a cold voice, by the way, don't provoke my bottom line of tolerance, otherwise you can't afford the consequences. The people of the Holy Court, even if they are angry, don't care about it. He has no intention of pampering a broken nunnery. At this time, as if they noticed the movement here, Professor Lee and Professor Zheng of the Pearl Academy walked over quickly. Similarly, Professor Lee's granddaughter Li Zimei and the licking dog Shi Junsheng also came, and even Hedi, Edith, and Cheryl, who needed to accompany the Alpine Academy throughout the whole process, also came. They also happened to hear what Tang Mao said. Edith and Cheryl looked at each other, and there was a bit of smugness in their eyes, because in their opinion, Tang Mao was simply looking for death. This is the Alpine Academy. Such a provocation, and such arrogant words. Teacher Branki will naturally not let the other party go. Are you threatening me? Branki was really a little angry. Maybe what they did was indeed not thoughtful enough, but not only did they violate their rules, but they even dared to threaten, which was simply too arrogant. Professor Lee and Professor Zheng were also a little puzzled when they saw this, but they still had some understanding of Tang Mao. What he said was never just talk. Why, Teacher Branki wants to teach me a lesson. If you have this attitude, then don't be rude to me. Branki finished speaking, and the powerful magic aura dissipated instantly. As the magic aura on her body surged, everyone here was shocked. It was really hard to imagine that a woman who looked like a student could have such a powerful power. However, compared to the shock of the two professors, Tang Mao was not afraid at all. Although she was a 4-element superclass, she was not a 4-element perfect. What was there to be afraid of? Even if he was not demonized, he still had the strength to fight. Then, the two of them simultaneously spread their wings of wind and floated into the air. For a superclass magician to fight, the ground was obviously not a good choice. Teacher Branki, please stop. At this time, Teacher Jailan rushed over. When Branki saw that the person coming was Teacher Jailan, she stopped. Speaking of which, she was a little impulsive. Fighting between superclass mages was not allowed, especially since they were still near the Holy Court. They could not act at will, otherwise, the consequences would not be something she could bear. Just as Teacher Jailan came, Branki stopped. After watching Branki stop, Teacher Jailan looked at Tang Mao helplessly and said, little guy, you are really good at looking for trouble. Is it me who is looking for trouble? Teacher Jailan, you can't say that. Tang Mao shrugged and then said seriously, you don't give us the treatment we deserve, so don't you allow us to have some meat ourselves? Although he is not a meat lover, but if he is asked to eat this bland soup for a month, what is the difference between that and being in prison? This is our academy's negligence, but you shouldn't hurt our patrol mages. Teacher Jailan looked at him and said, they just fainted. After waking up, there will be no sequelae, except soreness and numbness. When Tang Mao took action, he still had a good grasp. Teacher Branki, this time it is our negligence. Then Teacher Jailan looked at Tang Mao and others and said, tomorrow I will arrange for you to have 3 meals a day. Branki didn't understand why Teacher Jailan was so humble. When has their Alpine Academy ever been provoked like this? Moreover, in the end, they had to apologize to the other party. Jailan did not explain, but asked everyone to disperse. Tang Mao was also a little surprised. Why was Jailan so polite? However, since others said so, what could he do? He had to leave. Seeing the people from Mingsu Academy leave, Branki, Hidi, Dis, and Cheryl who were here were all puzzled. Especially Branki. She said directly, "Teacher Jailan, how can you tolerate his provocation like this?" Even the patrol mages were not injured or killed, but they were knocked unconscious by him. "Teacher Branki, believe me, this is for the good of the academy." Jailan sighed slightly. Although they and Parthenon have never had any contact, Jailan still knows about what happened in Parthenon. Especially this time, Tang Mao, who was invited by the Holy Court, knows about it. Although the incident on the Parthenon mountain has been blocked, there is no wall that is impenetrable in the world. Tang Mao was indeed just a mage who had just entered the super level, but before he even stepped into the super level, he had already caused unrest in the Divine Mountain. If they really offended such a person, it would not be of any benefit to their Alpine Academy. Chapter 473. Doglickers don't deserve to enjoy delicious food. Naturally, Branki would not let it go for Jailan's words. After all, such a bad student needs to be taught well. Of course, Branki just wants to teach Tang Mao. It's better for young people not to be too sharp. In fact, she is only a few years older than Tang Mao, but she feels that she is already an old nun with a calm temperament. "Teacher Jailan, I want an explanation." Although she shouldn't have this attitude in front of such a gentle female teacher, but she was really angry. "Hidi, you go back first. Remember the task I gave you." Jailan did not speak directly, but turned to look at Hidi and the other two and the patrolling female mages who woke up here, and said softly. Although Hidi and the others also wanted to know why Jailan tolerated Tang Mao everywhere, but Jailan had already given the order, so they couldn't stay here any longer. They had to leave obediently. On the other side, Mingsu and his group were on their way back. Professor Lee could not help but said, "I say, Tang Mao. After all, this is not our country, nor is it our Mingsu Academy. You'd better keep a low profile. If you had really taken action just now, even if the two of us wanted to help you, we would be unable to do anything." Although Professor Zeng was also unhappy with the food and drink, as well as the fact that the students here looked down on him. But after all, they are in a foreign country, so it is better to keep a low profile if they can avoid trouble. "Professor Lee, what you said is not right." Tang Mao shook his head in disapproval, and then said, "If learning magic is just to show off in your own country, and you need to be humble abroad, then why should I learn it? Although the Alpine Academy is indeed very famous, what's the big deal about being famous? Our Pearl Academy is now the world's #1 academy. This is internationally recognized. The big guys in the country are too low-key. For our great China, do we still need to be low-key intolerant when walking in these small countries?" Although what Tang Mao said makes sense, they are old after all, and they don't want to cause trouble if they can. The two did not persuade them. After all, what Tang Mao said was not wrong. If you keep a low profile in your own country, why should you keep a low profile when you have strength abroad? And the Alpine Academy really treated them too much. Not only did they restrict their freedom of life, but they also didn't give them normal 3 meals. You know, they invited Mingsu Academy to come here, otherwise why would they come here? Although they can see that the Alpine Academy wants to show off their power to the world's #1 academy, but when it comes to Tang Mao, they can only say that they think too much. In this regard, the two have to admire Dean Zio's decision. As expected, Tang Mao was invited to come. If there is anything unhappy, you can just bring it up. At most, you can make a fuss for a while. After separating from them, several people returned to the arranged accommodation. Tang Mao returned to his room, while Mo Fan and Zhao Manan took Mu Bei to other rooms. Although nothing happened tonight, the three felt that it was necessary to vent their anger on those two little bitches who were looking for trouble. What strange things they discussed. Tang Mao was not interested in intervening. After all, apart from getting some medicine, they didn't have much to do. He still disdained to associate with such things. The most important thing was that Tang Mao was still very interested in that cave. If he practiced there for a few days, he might have a chance to break through to the 3rd level of the space system. However, if you want to use someone else's place to practice, you naturally have to ask for permission first. Although not many people can enter that place, there is no possibility of being disturbed, but he can't be too self-indulgent, right? No words were spoken that night. The breakfast of the second day really changed, and it was no longer so light and watery. It was obvious that Tang Mao's commotion yesterday was still very effective. When the people from Mingsu Academy saw this breakfast, their appetites were greatly stimulated. However, while eating, Tang Mao kicked the licking dog Shi Junsheng to the side. Although Shi Junsheng was afraid of Tang Mao's strength, he couldn't help but look at the two professors and said, "Professors, you see, he said last night that he would not show off in front of the Chinese people, but today he attacked me." Tang Mao didn't care about his complaints at all. Professor Lee was still puzzled and said, "Tang Mao, why is this? I don't like to share food with dogs. He doesn't deserve it." Tang Mao curled his lips and then said, "Didn't you say yesterday that the food here is very good? Then you can continue to enjoy it." The students from Alpine Academy naturally noticed the situation here, especially Branki, who was also watching here, but today was different from last night. Even though she was disturbed, she didn't say anything. After all, thinking of what Jia said last night, she felt that it would be good to spend a month in peace. Otherwise, if this demon was really provoked, Alps would not be Parthenon, and might not be able to withstand such destruction. Of course, Branki still had some doubts. How dare a high-level mage do that? Although his thunder system was very strong, it wouldn't be so powerful that the two major forces of the Holy Court and the Parthenon could not do anything, right? However, as Jia Lan said, the invitation of the Holy Court instead of arresting him explained everything. Therefore, it is better to have less trouble than more trouble. People with hard fists in this world are reasonable. Since they are right, what else can be said? And Shi Junsheng regretted it at this time. Exclamation mark. He never thought that Tang Mao would be so tough, nor did he expect that the people of the Alps Academy were so useless. If he knew that they were afraid of his Great China and the Pearl Academy, why would he still be a dog? But in the end, he could only continue to taste his plain soup, because Tang Mao told him that, if he had a little meat in this month, he would feel the power of thunder. Shi Junsheng witnessed the horror of his thunder last night. The patrolling mages in that place were all as strong as him. Some might even be stronger than him. So many people couldn't stand the baptism of thunder, and he was the only one. Wouldn't he be split into charcoal? Question mark. The most important thing was that the two professors had no intention of interfering. Compared with relieving their cravings and staying alive, the latter was obviously more important. After the breakfast episode, Tang Mao didn't mean to go to class. As for looking at girls, he had already represented the college and satisfied all his ideas. So he told Jia Lan about going to the waterfall to practice. In this regard, Jia Lan agreed without thinking. After all, Tang Mao was really good at making trouble, and he couldn't afford to provoke him, but he could afford to hide. Jia Lan even felt that it would be better if he could stay in there for a month. This way, I don't have to worry about it. To be honest, if I knew that Tang Mao also had time, Jia Lan would never invite Mingsu Academy to their academy. In addition, the cave was originally used for students to practice. However, no one else can enter the cave except Hidi. So it's okay to let Tang Mao practice. Tang Mao walked towards the waterfall, while the rest of the group went to listen to the lectures of the famous teachers of their academy, sitting in the huge school, enjoying the young women full of youthful vitality. However, as I said, I have feasted my eyes. As for whether I can release the power of the little brother, it depends entirely on luck. But now, it is still the most important to take this opportunity to break through the space system. In this world, strength is obviously the most important. And if the space system magic reaches a super level, then his strength will be improved by more than a little bit. After all, for now, his space system is matched with a relationship of mental power, and the output of the display is not inferior to the power of some super level space system mages. Chapter 474, Space System Level 3. Entering the cave inside the waterfall, which was where Hidi practiced before. Tang Mao directly occupied her territory, laid a layer of lightning barrier, and then began to practice. The space system has been ready to move for a long time, and the galaxy also wants to expand at any time. It's a pity that Tang Mao has been focusing on the lightning system for a while and ignored it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, now that his space system is only level 2. Not to mention anything else, even his strong mental power doesn't allow it. The whole day of practice was extremely quiet, and the speed was the same as he imagined, very fast. Maybe it was because of the special place here, the eldest girl actually ran out without permission. She practiced next to Tang Mao in a proper manner. He was still quite confused about the appearance of the snow girl. Doesn't this guy only like ice and snow, and doesn't he stay in the contract space all the time? Why did you want to come out today? Daughter, why did you want to run out? Looking at the snow girl in the form of a queen next to him, her height seemed to be about the same as his. Among the monsters, she might be petite and cute. However, the ice attribute energy contained in this small body is extremely terrifying. The snow girl said that, if she practiced here, her spatial power would be greatly improved. Moreover, because her sister Yanji was too much, she was always burning with fire every day. The temperature in the contract space was almost deadly. Fortunately, Tang Mao still had an empty contract space, otherwise, she would be going crazy. Of course, the snow girl also thought about coming out, but there were too many humans. Unless she was fighting, she was not willing to have more contact with people other than Tang Mao. Even now, she rarely showed up for the young ladies such as Tang Yu and Munijiro, who she had met a few times. Compared with Yanji, who was very familiar and motherly, the personalities of the two elemental darlings were completely opposite. What are you complaining about? When you broke through to the mature stage, you were also extremely cold. Tang Mao couldn't help but laugh and scolded, and then said, I didn't hear Yanji complain to me like this. Zunu said that Yanji would run out from time to time, and it didn't have much impact at all, and she didn't have much chance to come out. Of course, she also had the opportunity to come out, but she didn't come out when there were people. Although Tang Mao wanted to say that it was your problem, the eldest girl has always been like this, and in the end he could only smile and take the blame. After gently rubbing the eldest girl's little face, he asked her to practice quietly. After all, he came here to practice. And just when he was about to continue practicing, there was a big noise outside. At the same time, there was a strong mental power, that is, the fluctuation of space magic. In this regard, although Tang Mao was unhappy about being disturbed, he didn't go out. The person who was tossing outside, there was no need to think about it to know that it was Edie. She may have practiced here unintentionally, or she may have deliberately made trouble, because she occupied the place. However, as long as he did not listen carefully, the sound of the waterfall rushing down was enough to make everything clear. And because of this, he did not hear Hida's exclamation afterwards. The snow girl did hear it, but she was relatively cold, so she naturally would not care about what happened. One person and one pet were isolated from the world, and at this time, many people had gathered outside the waterfall. There was no way a gardener died in the academy, and it was a little angel that everyone knew. But tonight he was ruthlessly killed. Time passed quietly without knowing it. Tang Mao and the snow girl in the cave did not care about what was happening outside. One successfully made the galaxy much wider, and the other enjoyed improving its spatial power with peace of mind. In a blink of an eye, 7 days passed. When the space system stabilized at the high level 3rd level, Tang Mao was considered to have stepped out of the waterfall, although the eldest daughter said that she wanted to stay here for a while. However, he had no interest in staying in such a boring place. When he came out, he heard that people from Mingsu Academy, Casa Clan and Alpine Academy seemed to be in the fighting field, and they were going to have a competition. Tang Mao asked for directions and headed to the fighting field of Alpine Academy. When he arrived, he saw that the people from Mingsu Academy were already here. Similarly, several managers from Alpine Academy and people from Casa Clan were also here. The person who came here with the young Duke of Casa Clan was Prince Banbo, who he had thrown into the water. This thief's son was quite tragic. Although he had the title of prince, he was not as good as a leader of a family. In the field, Emo Fan and Zao Manan had already fought with Hidi and a retainer of Casa Clan. After seeing Tang Mao, Mu Bei was a little surprised and said, "Your cultivation has improved again." "Oh, can you see it?" Hearing what Mu Bei said, Tang Mao was really a little surprised. I'm just guessing. Liu Bei didn't really feel anything, but he always felt that Tang Mao seemed to be stronger than before. The cave in the waterfall is indeed a good place. With the meditation these days, my space system has been perfected. Tang Mao responded, and then looked at the field and said, nothing has happened in the past few days, right? To put it bluntly, Liu Bei is currently a retainer of Tang Mao. After all, he has also joined the Tang family. So in response to his questions, he naturally narrated patiently. One person died. After he finished speaking, Tang Mao said again, oh, then what about their game? For the country. Professor Lee said at this time, now that the coastline is rising, our Chinese naval strength has always been inferior to Spain, so there is this game. This Bamba has no real power. Do you think he can make the decision? Tang Mao shrugged. Since he is a prince, and has already agreed, unless the Spanish royal family loses face, they will definitely do it. Professor Zeng said with an affirmative look. For these royal families, face is obviously more important than anything else. Unless the Spanish royal family really doesn't care about these things, and doesn't care about cooperating with other countries in the future, there is really no way to go back on their word. Of course, Prince Boban, who made this move, might be in trouble if he loses. But that's none of their business. After all, he's the one who has to follow the bet. And the young Duke of the Casa family is also here. How dare they go back on their word? At this time, the battle in the arena was already raging. Zhao Manan fought 2-on-1 and used all kinds of defensive skills, while Mo Fan behind him gathered the power of thunder. Even though his thunder was not as good as Tang Mao's by several levels, it was also the top destruction of the same level. Hidi and the retainers of the Casa family were not defensive mages, so naturally they couldn't withstand Mo Fan's bombardment. This game ended without any suspense. Of course, the main reason for the victory was that Zhao Manan was tough enough. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't break his defense. The competition was over in just a few minutes. Whether it was the top students of the Alpine Academy or the strong retainers around the young Duke of the Casa family, they were all easily defeated. There was no way. They failed to break through Zhao Manan's defense, which successfully gave Mo Fan the opportunity to accumulate power. Once he attacked, the lightning and fire were unstoppable. Without Zhao Manan's defense, how could ordinary people withstand it? In fact, Hidi was careless. If she chose to interfere with Mo Fan from the beginning, even if she might lose, it would definitely not be so refreshing. Hidi was very unwilling. Not only was she easily crushed by Tang Mao, but even a little brother of his crushed her! However, with Jialan, a gentle teacher, around, she quickly accepted this reality. Mo Fan and Zhao Manan walked down and saw Tang Mao. Mo Fan hurriedly asked, Tang boss, how is the effect of practicing in that cave? Very good. As long as you can get in, you can try it. It is very suitable for practicing dimensional magic in it, and it is also a good place to improve mental strength. Tang Mao naturally knew what he wanted to ask, and said it directly without hiding anything. After all, if he becomes stronger, doesn't that mean that the Tang family is getting stronger? However, with Mo Fan's current mental strength, he is really not sure whether this kid can enter. Chapter 475 Heading to the Holy Court. After the game, the discussion of remuneration was handled by Professor Zeng and Professor Lee. As for them, they left here. Tang Mao was so happy looking at Prince Bangbo's regretful and constipated face. Sure enough, a child who has no strength and loves to pretend is really nothing. And the little Duke of the Casa family obviously has a lot of resources. However, whether it is true or not, no one knows. Anyway, his performance, well, can be given 7 or 8 points. Because of this early duel, the Casa family, who wanted to show off their strength, has been very uncomfortable all day. After casually visiting several iconic buildings of the Alps Academy, Hekasa took his retainers and followers to rest. In the evening, it was suddenly reported that the little Duke of the Casa family was ill. Tang Mao did not go to watch it. To put it bluntly, his life and death in the Alps Academy had little to do with him. The most important thing is that all this is just a conspiracy after all. It's just a conspiracy to win over the Casa family. In this world, those who know how to play tricks are naturally those who are in high positions and have power. Tang Mao was not interested in getting involved in such political intrigues, but there are always people who like to meddle in other people's business. Mo Fan investigated the murderer who had hurt the small animals, killed the little gardener, and poisoned the young duke of the Casa family. Of course, during this period, an elder of the Casa family rushed here directly and destroyed the big bell tower of Ferren College, which can be regarded as quite a history. The elder not only destroyed the big bell tower, but also issued a final wanted order. That attitude is simply arrogant. However, Dean Perry of the Alpine Academy was so frustrated that she dared not say a word. To put it bluntly, she was also afraid of the forbidden spell master of the Casa family. A strong man at the forbidden spell level can completely represent the law when it is reasonable. There are not many forbidden spell masters in the world, but the existence of one, as long as they are alive, the family status is unshakable. No matter who it is. Fortunately, there is Mo Fan, a temporary self-righteous detective, who has solved all the mysteries. Only then did he resolve the crisis of the Alpine Academy. Boss, how about my reasoning? I can become a modern detective in the future. Mo Fan told his story as soon as he came back. Tang Mao just responded, reality is reality after all. Sometimes, the truth is not just what you perceive. Mo Fan heard this and asked Tang Mao, is his reasoning wrong? Unfortunately, Tang Mao didn't say anything. But the more uncomfortable the feeling of ants drilling into the heart makes people. Mo Fan thought about it, but he didn't understand what was wrong with his reasoning. Moreover, after listening to Tang Mao's words, it seemed that he had found the wrong murderer. Unfortunately, no matter how itchy he was, he still couldn't get the answer he should have. However, this itching lasted only one night, and then Mo Fan was too lazy to think about it. Anyway, he learned from Tang Mao that Edith did commit a crime. In the next few days, his efforts were not in vain, and he was favored by the girls in the entire Alpine Academy. Although they may not be as outstanding as Edie, and do not have her beautiful face, they are all top beauties, and Mo Fan is very happy. As for Zhao Manan, he is obviously weak. Here, perhaps the son of the richest man in China can be of some use. Unfortunately, his current situation is that he is just a student Zhao Manan who graduated from Mingsu Academy. Therefore, even if there are girls who are nice to talk to, they are all very defensive. He can't get them at all. As for Tang Mao, he has been practicing recently. Practice and practice. And hard work pays off. His wind system finally shows signs of breakthrough. Now the thunder system has stabilized at the super level 1, and the ice system and shadow system have reached the high level perfection. As for the fire system and space system, they have reached the 3rd level. The wind system has also shown signs of breakthrough. Finally, the summoning system is still at the high level 2. If you want to awaken a new magic system, it will be a long way to go! Exclamation mark. Sure enough, although the automatic awakening of magic in the early stage is a great advantage, it is almost as difficult as ascending to heaven to awaken it in the later stage. After the forbidden spell, awakening a series of magic will cost a great price. The price of building a city, the core of the earth. When they set out again, there were 2 more people in the team, one Bran concubine and one Hedi. Tang Mao was not surprised at all, and he was also a little interested in the boring journey that followed. Although Hedi was very arrogant, what if she had the opportunity to get along with him? If Tang Mao couldn't make her lean against the wall obediently, could he still be considered an excellent man? The most important thing is that the 2 beauties, Bran concubine and Hedi, are really eye-catching in their outfits today. They are like 2 top beauties, exuding the most charming charm and elegance everywhere. Because of their white skin and similar height, they really look like a pair of perfect angel sisters when standing together. If they don't use veils to cover themselves, walking on the city road will definitely cause a series of car accidents. If possible, he wouldn't mind a threesome with this pair of master and disciple who are not master and disciple. Of course, regardless of whether this kind of thing can be accomplished, the idea must be there. As for Tang Mao's aggressive eyes, Hedi was a little unhappy. What are you looking at? Although Teacher Jialan said that we should be calm, but when she thought of what Tang Mao had seen before, she felt very uncomfortable. I've seen you without clothes. What's wrong with looking at you like this now? Can it save a piece of meat? He didn't mean to indulge this little arrogant. He gritted her teeth when she heard this. She was thinking that she would fight to the death if she was not stopped. Fortunately, because of Fan's help in solving the case, concubine Bran had changed her mind about them, so she stopped TD. With the persuasion of the two professors of Mingsu Academy, everyone set out on the road to the Holy Court. Professor Zeng is a summoning mage. There is still a long way to go to the Holy Court. It must be very tiring to walk. He rarely summoned his Mangshan beast. Everyone sat on the back of this large summoned beast, feeling the magnificent scenery around them, letting the thin snow fall on their shoulders, and Tang Mao teased Hidi from time to time. The journey was unknowingly completed. After walking for about half a day, the gate of the Holy Court was finally seen. I don't know where it is in the Alps. The altitude is higher, and it is covered with thick snow everywhere. The vast white is divided into different layers by some mountain ridges. The different shadows of light can barely distinguish the general outlines of these snow-capped mountains. Climbing up the long snow mountain ladder, when you reach the top, you suddenly see a basin formed by more than a dozen peaks side by side. The basin is like a bowl of the earth, held high by those peaks, carrying the essence of the sun and the moon, and breathing the aura of the Alps. It must be said that every major force or some famous institutions in the world are in an excellent location. When going up the mountain, Tang Mao went to meet the priests of the Holy Court. The old man Bao used to be a high-ranking priest here, but he has retired now. And the current priest is also an old man. But from his mental outlook and the strong magical aura on his body, he doesn't look like an old man over 60 years old, but like a middle-aged man. Tang Mao can be sure that the strength of this old priest must be at least half a step of forbidden spells. Of course, it is very likely that he is a forbidden spell mage. I heard about your story. With your superclass power just now, relying on the forbidden magic of the 5 continents, you can fight against Khufu in the underworld by yourself. I have to say that it is really surprising. The middle-aged man suddenly said when Tang Mao looked at him. You are well informed. It seems that the Holy Court is not useless. Although Tang Mao was surprised, he must not lose his momentum here. The middle-aged man didn't care about what he said, but said, let me introduce myself. I'm the chief priest of the Holy Court. My name is Lester. After a pause, he continued, Song Kaiming is also my former boss. Just because he told me about your deeds, I won't do anything to you. Regardless of whether Lester's words were true or false, he naturally would not believe them. After all, most of the people in power in this world are blinded by power. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.